What's going on here, ladies and gentlemen? I will wait for everybody, or as much as we can, wait for some folks to show up so we can have some very worthwhile discussion. I am looking forward to so much of it. As you chime in, or just so I make sure the chat is working, because we are live, I do appreciate if you could put something in the chat saying all good. How's the lighting? I just want to make sure that the Sette Focus to the Finish studio is all well. Yeah, hey, what's up, my man? Sette compound is secure. Dinner has been made. I enjoyed it. Some jumbo shrimp oregonata again. Second time I've had it this week. Sean, nice to see you, buddy. Father Sean. And I believe, boy, Plunger is Rich. I'm getting used to that, Rich. Got a lot to talk about. We're going to let some people join. Once I get to like 25 people or so, a few minutes after 9 o'clock, we'll get started. I'll go over the agenda, and we're going to just wing it, sort of an impromptu ad lib, if you will. We're going to talk about the weekend. We're going to talk about what lies ahead. I got a tip for you guys on Thursday because one of the horses in my barn is running, and I'm excited about the entry because I'm going to send it in. Ernie, what's going on, Ernie? Yes, they appreciate it. We're going to talk a little bit about the Monmouth card because those who know, but if you weren't involved, I want, because this is a results type of business. And when things go really well, you want to share it. And I'm a full card player. So when the full card works out, remember, you can't win every single race. But when you start linking races together and you're making scores, it's a beautiful thing. So we're going to go over that. Reading some more of the comments. Mike Paradise Man, how's the Rams look this year? Hey, you know what? I was going to go with my Yankee hat, my Yankee jersey tonight. I said, let me go with a Breeders' Cup hat. Cooper Kupp, the old, I still miss Cooper Kupp. Big fan. He's now on the Seahawks, won his second Super Bowl. But Rams are looking really good. You know that. You got to be living on the rock if you don't know that. And the Yankees are just a game out, and they're going to take over soon. So as people join, it's nice that I see people saying, hey, trust me when I say this. I got some interesting stuff to talk about tonight. And you know what? I wrote a few things down. But a lot of things I'm just going to wing it. I want to do some serious Q&A. I want to know what you guys are thinking. If you're making money, where you are in the calendar year. For example, I know definitively 2026, we're almost through our 7th month. Now, this month, I cannot lose. Even though I'm going to be in Saratoga for a week at the end of this month, I'm already well in hand up. But you don't win every month. And like I said this at one time, if you keep a strict book, hold yourself accountable, know the money you put in and know the money you put out. You got to be aware of your deposits because, believe me, I've lived that way. And I know it could become just a reckless motion. You don't really realize how much you are spending or losing. So hold yourself accountable, keep a record. So right now, when we completed the first 6 months, coincidentally, I had an even teal, 3 winning months, 3 losing months. But what can happen, you can have your biggest winning day or biggest winning week during a losing month, and you can have your biggest loss week or biggest loss day in the middle of your best month. But the bottom line is the bottom line. So now in July, I'm going to love it because we'll be 7 months through. I cannot lose because I've been tearing it up lately, and I'm proud of that. And when you're somebody like me who provides information, my handicap, whether it's and like we're going to talk about my fully written Word docs, which I elaborate generally on my top 3 and my top 4 in writing, or my grid. A lot of people are liking the grid. But what I'm trying to say is you have to be aware of where you stand as a horse player and as a handicapper. Okay? Sure. The confidence, you could exude confidence. I'm going to get to the comments in a second. And be confident about nailing every race that you handicap, but that's just not, it's just not realistic, you know? All right, so I'm going to read some of the comments and we're going to get started because it's now 9:04. I gave 5 minutes for people to use the bathroom. As we say in Italian, rigidisce a little, digest their dinners. It's a Monday night. It's 9:04. Who's better than us, right? All right. So, Rigon, I'm doing good. My only question is why didn't we have Knightsbridge? Hey, I'll give you that. Because I'll tell you right off the bat, because everything's stored in my mind. We're going to go over that race. I have some details here because I want to talk about how the Monmouth card materialized. But not all our viewers were playing Monmouth. Remember, Mr. Sette handicapped the whole card. Mr. Sette played every race. I had a little doohickey to tell you guys. Remember, I'm a family first type of guy. So I have not missed the Haskell actually being there in person over the last decade. Okay? You all know I've been to the Haskell like somewhere in the area of 35 times. But I had a 10-year run. Coincidentally, the last 7 years, I was literally in the press box in the Sky Tower at Monmouth and in the paddock being with Pastor Wire. You know, I was covering it with Pastor Wire. Obviously, you know, I'm not on Pastor Wire's team anymore. But this year, after I capped the card, I was going, but I had 2 hangups. And ultimately, I didn't get my new Haskell hat for the year. My son, when he got back from his cruise, because I was going to go with him this year, he hurt his knee. He was all swollen. So family first, I lost my energy to want to go there live. And I had a commitment in the early evening as well. So I was doing all my wagering at home. Okay. So it was different for me this year. If you guys were there and you were looking for me, I wasn't there live. And by coincidence, it worked out. We're going to talk about Baby Vino because, you're going to hear what I have to say about that scenario. If you didn't see my post on Twitter, I'm going to reinforce it. The drunk money, Kathy Berg, very interesting. And we're going to talk about drunk money like that. Because listen, every handicapper is entitled to their opinion. If they go through the process of their method in terms of what they uncover, they have every right to be entitled to choose a specific horse. But keep that in mind, because I'm not ready to talk about the Haskell. I'm going to address every question or comment that shows up on here, I promise. And you'll see it'll make sense what we talk about. Some things, and when we get to the Haskell, I'll talk about, it has nothing to do with the odds. Because I may love a horse that is going to be 35-1, but I'm going to back it up with hard-nosed, competent data that makes sense rather than it just being a guess. And we'll talk about that, and you'll see where it makes sense if you haven't read my comments on the race. All right, so let's start the show. All right, I'm happy everybody's with me. Scott, how you doing there? Appears that way, Kathy. So can somebody just give me a quick thumbs up that the lighting is nice? It looks good. I don't got to worry about the notifications. I eliminated that. I got my cell phone on Do Not Disturb, even though my kids always have the green light. I know my priorities. But how's the picture of the Sette compound focus to the finish studio? Can somebody give me a thumbs up that's good? All right. Hey, That's very much. Thank you so much. Ernie, thank you. All right, let's get started. So, first things first, I touched upon how has your year been? Obviously, if you're watching this show, you have an interesting in horse racing and wagering on horses. So, if you're a once a month person, 4 times a week person, big day person, you can only identify how often and how much you play in terms of your wagering capacities, and always know your bottom line, because that's how you learn what you go through and you improve. Because there's a lot of times if Mr. Sette's got more money. I'm not rich, but I have a lot more money I could bet on a race, but I still harness myself because I'm managing a full card and I stay within my capacity. Sometimes, like this horse on Thursday, I'm going to give you, I may send it in. I go higher, if my confidence level's good. I may, it depends. I wouldn't shy away from putting $100 on a horse, even if it's not a big grade 1 day like the Kentucky Derby. But what I'm trying to say is manage your bankroll and put yourself in a position to be successful. Don't leave yourself with your hands tied on a big race day, because I get a lot of people writing into me. We're going to talk about recapping. Here's the agenda. I want to talk about recapping the Monmouth card, the highs and lows. We're going to talk about the Haskell and my takeaways from the Haskell. I want to talk about what's going on at Saratoga a few weeks in. Specifically, hey, Buffalo Mike, happy you're here, my man. Love everybody, man. Listen, that's why, by the way, the reason why we didn't do this live show yet in July, like I said, my full-time employment, I've had the late schedule. So I can't do this at midnight. My mornings and afternoons were free and everybody else is working. But in August, I go back on days. So we're going to do this once a week. I got an idea to make our Saratoga Saturdays hot. Like I'll have my handicap. We'll go over the whole card and I'll take Q&A. We're going to do that. But anyway, I don't want to jump off. I don't want to go on tilt here. So those that know. I was a little disappointed, not from a monetary perspective, because like you guys know, I offer more of my full card handicaps on the arm more than I actually make offers out there to put my work into play with as a fee. To be honest with you, I was disappointed with the amount of involvement Saturday, but it happens. People are on vacation. It's summertime. They may not be interested in Monmouth because they were playing Saratoga, or maybe they just wanted the Haskell and you were upset where I didn't do my Haskell deep dive. Not that it would have mattered because I wasn't on no Baby Vino, but you get what I'm saying. So this was a fee opportunity, and because I like to help and I'm always confident about my work, I thought there'd be double or triple the amount of people that subscribed, and it wasn't. To be honest with you, it was only 22 people. 22 people. So with that said, let me first tell you something so maybe some of you can get a good takeaway. Win, lose, or draw, but very interesting. The first race of the day, all right, was won by Funky C, Funky Do, okay? So in race 1 at high noon, we started off with a bang. We had an $18 winner on top. But since it was my grid, all you had was my win probability percentage. So you didn't have my fully written paragraph or two about how I landed on a horse. I just want to give you a flavor. So if you see this scenario again, it's important and you'll learn from it and you'll make money. I never once thought about using anybody else on top but him in this race. So I had a great start to the day. We nailed, so the handicap was 3714. The finish was 317. So we had top choice winner, $18. We had the exacta and the triple. If you just went too deep or you had your box, especially the triple, and we're talking about paying some good money. The triple on 50 cents paid $67. You do the math. And the exacta was $44. Plus, we started the day with an $18 winner. But what I wanted to share with you that I couldn't share because I didn't have it in writing. This was a gelding. If you didn't notice this, now you know. He came back 1 week later. So they ran him on the lawn at Saratoga going 5.5. And Summers, who's the trainer for Napoleon Solo, decided, you know what? He was working so well. Great works. But that sprint at Saratoga just was trouble, no run, and they never asked him. It was like a workout. Sure enough, they came right back a week later, stretched him out. The distance was 1.16 miles, and he looked like the winner, going into the stretch. I had no doubt. So it was a great start to the day. But if you handicapped the race and you didn't see that, so the take here, the pearl, is if you see a trainer coming right back, I'm talking 1 week, 7, 8 days, even 6 days, look into it, find the reasons why. And that particular horse, if you look about how he had been working, I mean, bullet works, beautiful works, and he just ran into the wrong field, and it was time for him to shine. And they stretched him out. See if I could give one piece of information on that. My eyes sometimes with the lighting. Yeah, but that's it. I don't want to stay in the first race. So we crushed the first race. The second race, for those that didn't get involved, and that's why my money was made the first 5 races, including the pick 5. I was free rolling the rest of the way. And then the calamities happened, the weather, the storms and the weather delays and the soft turf and the sloppy, soupy, shifty track, Some more comments. I'm one of the ones that know. Good to hear. All right. I missed the written thoughts, but I'm thankful for the win percentages. Okay, Ernie. So by the way, I will go over some of the comments as we go along, but keep putting them in there because I could scroll and go back to them, So if you have a question, I will go back to it. But anyway, race 2, and I'm going to expedite this. See, my things all marked up. Race 2, the handicap was 6,893. The exacta was 8.3 and the triple was 8.39. So I hit the double, paid $72. We're not talking about the $12 double variety. $72 double on $2. The exacta paid $65. And the triple was $200 on a deuce, 50 cents, $50 on 50 cents. So I opened the card with back-to-back slays. Alive in the pick 3. Now, remember what I always say, guys. If you're a pick 5 player, sometimes I feel like I'm sounding redundant. If you're a pick 5 player, you have to put your pick 5 ticket in, keep it manageable. I don't even like going more than $54. Most of mine are 27 or 36. You get to know me from Twitter or what I speak of. I don't cowboy anything. I'm decisive and I'm confident. I trust my process. But I'm Gio Sette. I'm not Jesus Christ. But my point I'm making, that's what manages, because there's a number of pick 5s during the day. And we're going to get to Nightbridge soon. But so I had a great start. And it was my goal to finance my pick 5 ticket with hitting a daily double or a pick 3 within the sequence, which I did already. All right, let's go to race 3. Race 3. The momentum continued. My cap was 3769, 410-1. I went very deep. But the key to the top two, 3-7. Exacta was 7-3. We're not talking about some Fugazi exacta. This was another exacta that paid $70 on a deuce. Top two reversed. The triple, which if you were going to follow my handicap, you could only hit the triple if you did a key, no box. To be honest with you, that day, I did not hit this triple because I played a strong triple my top three and a saver with my fourth. But if you did your own handicapping and you saw mine as a guide, hey, Sette likes 7-3. I like the 1. So that's what I'm going to do. And if you did that, you got the triple. So I got back-to-back doubles, the pick 3, and the first 3 races, it was top choice, second, but the 2 second choices won over my top choices. That's when you know you're rolling. Okay, somebody asked about Knightbridge. We're going. Let's see. Sean says, some trainers like Summers are known for running them right back. I forget who it was, but another trainer did the same thing a week or 2 back at Saratoga, and a horse won after a week. Yes, so what you look for? Trust me, guys, this is something I'm dying to see happen. If they come right back, you want to make sure they've been physically fit, they've been working well, or they're making a change. They're not repeating the exact same race. In this case, he stretched them right out after that sprint. They didn't mirror the same race. They did something different. And of course, if the post position is different, that's something else you got to put in mind. But you're right, Sean. Listen, if I start thinking, I could think of a lot of scenarios where you've seen this happen. It does vary, and you won't see it. You generally won't see it in graded stakes races because the campaigns are, well managed, and they just won't do that. They won't run a week later unless the circumstances were just called for it. But at that level, yes. Okay. Race 4. Now, a lot of people would say, all right, Sette, you were all over Skippy over money game. Now, obviously, you don't have to be special or be well-informed in this game to know that race, not only was a small field, there was 3 horses. It was the 5 Skippy Longstocking, the 4 Knightsbridge, and money game, okay? The reason why I was decisive, and I lost my exactas, I lost my win money, I lost my new daily doubles, and I lost my triples. However, I was smart enough in my secondary pick 5 to use Knightbridge. How can I leave him out? The horse is a terrific animal. The reason why I went with Skippy, because I go with, there's no guessing in handicapping. You got to account for everything. Skippy is one of those unrelenting 9-furlong horses. He just excels at it. There was no reason to feel under these circumstances in that race that he was going to come up empty. The thing here is, do you get creative with your exacta, or how much do you put in terms of your confidence on money game? Who do you use in your pick 5? So the simple way was to go use all 3 in your pick 5, so you feel rather comfortable, because Irad was on the 1. And like I said, you know how much money Skippy Longstocking has won? That was an inferior field to him, considering all he's been through. And me knowing their campaign, I felt they wanted that race. They were going to run in a Charleston, and then eventually in the Breeders' Cup Classic. So that seemed to be like a stepping stone. But the board, a lot of the smart money was on Knightbridge. Hold on, another comment. Ruben, all right, in Texas, can't play online Couldn't make it Saturday, but I'm with you for the Travers driving down. All right, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be at Saratoga on Travers Day. I have 2 trips planned. Next week, I'll be there for 5 days. 5 days. So I'll be there for Jim Dandy Saturday, and I'm not going to the track all 5 days. I'll tell you about my schedule and emails, but good to hear that you're making the Travers. Very special day, great experience if you never experienced. So what I'm trying to say, call like it is. If you had Knightsbridge, congratulations, I tip my hat. The only way I was going to use him is my secondary pick 5, which worked out to be beneficial, my skinny one that you hit. See, that's the beautiful thing about money management. I had my main pick 5, which is a $54 ticket, and I didn't hit it. Pick 5 paid $605. But because I did so well with the early races, in that race to try to hit both pick 5s, I went 3 deep. So the pick 5, if you missed the Sette handicap, races 1 through 5 were top choice, second choice, third choice, top choice. So the only non-first or second was Knightsbridge, but you could think of him as that. Now, sure, Mr. Sette would have made a lot more money if I was decisive with him, but I got to be honest with you. I felt why I didn't like Knightsbridge on top. You're going against a super duper veteran in Skippy at that distance. Knightsbridge was stretching out. He's never been at the distance. So you got 2 horses that have equal amount of talent, but Skippy was more seasoned and more defiant, and this was less company that he's accustomed to beating. So that's what made me just go all in that direction. But I certainly respected Knightsbridge, but he was trying something he's never done before. And I can't believe they say he ran a 122 buyer. Crazy stuff. Sean, you're going to the spa for the Travers. That's going to be great, man. By the way, anybody going to Saratoga for the first time, I could recommend fun hangout places, great restaurants, a good spa, because they have many good spas if you want to have a soothing day in the area. Where to go after the track for something to drink and something to eat when the track piles out. I know all live bands, rooftops. I know all that. All right. So Kathy Berg says, question. At some point, I scraped my handicap for Monmouth and switched to horses that have slop experience. Can you explain why the horses with slop experience and that didn't work out at all? Okay. It's not, Kathy, it's a good question. And we're going to make this interactive. I'm going to finish with, I'm going to go right back to that. I'm going to finish recapping generically. I just wanted to talk about the pick 5, not because I was all over the pick 5, but the day changed because of the weather reviews. So in the 6th race, my second choice won. The 7th race, my third choice won, but I hit exacta because it came in over my top choice, and I also hit that daily double. Then in the 9th race, they scratched my top choice, but my new top choice is the winner. That's when things changed after race 10. Ironically, a lot of the big stakes races. The turf was softer, and they took one of the races off the turf. So race 13 was off the turf. All bets were off. I eliminated that race because I only prepared myself for the turf. Now, I handicapped the race, but I didn't play any verticals in the race. I just went, I made an impromptu move playing 13 and 14. And in race 14, guys, to get out, my handicap was 5-7-4, but came out 7-4-5. Top 3 triple, 7-4-5 from 5-7-4. The triple paid 132 on $2, or 33 on 50 cents. Guys, when something pays $33 on 50 cents. Do the math. You're picking something that's at 66 to 1. You know how it is? If you correlate that to sports, you know what kind of wager is a 66 to 1 shot? So always remember what you're facing and the level of difficulty, whether it's a small field, but especially a deeper field, how hard it is to land and hit a triple. It's not easy stuff. You got to be confident about it. All right. So to answer Kathy's question, and then we're going to go on, we're going to talk about the Haskell right now, but to answer Kathy's question, just because it's stormy and the track is soupy and shifty, remember those words, because there's sloppy, regular sloppy, there's sloppy rainy, there's muddy, there's wet fast, and then you have shifty. What happened that day, believe me, my eyes were on it. No matter how much they try to harrow it, 3 weather delays, it was a drenching. Even the turf was yielding. So the complexity of the day changed where we had to do things sort of impromptu. So what Kathy did, and Kathy, I really mean this, if you're saying you scrambled and you're focused and you scraped your handicap, as you're saying, and you wanted to just go to the horses to see which ones have been successful in the wet, that's a good thing. However, who were they successful in the wet against? Did they have a big win because it was a significantly weaker field at a different class, at a different distance? You know, plus it's hard to scramble. You can make the assumption that they're comfortable in sloppy going, but it's easier said than done. But I can understand why you decided to say, wow, it's nasty out there. I'm going to go back to my handicap and I'm going to find horses who have had success, who has had success in the wet, meaning in the money or winning. It's a good thing that you do that because that's showing that you have awareness. But what do I say? Those that follow me a long time, a good horse basically will win and run well on any surface. Now, yes, there are horses that are turfers. They're bred for the turf. Their campaign is riddled with turf races, and they don't want to change the consistency of the horse and run a turf horse on the wet. You know why they do it at times, where they keep them, where you see the X, where it was off the turf and they still ran? They have to because they want to keep the training, the campaign up to par. It's important. Doesn't mean they're going to be successful. But what really is important to have an awareness, and I tried to put that in my win probability percentage. Hey, just in case this one comes off the turf, if the MTOs, the main track onlys, got in, then this is who I consider more because I did some of the work. But when I approach a big card like Monmouth's Haskell Day, and right after this thought, we're going to go into the Haskell. I just wanted to respectfully answer Kathy's question because it's not as cut and dry, and remember this, as rummaging through the form, see who's had success in the slop and say, okay, I got him. That's who I'm going to go with. It's not as easy as that is. It will work out for you sometimes, but there are many contributing factors that you have to put into play. It's the best way I can answer that question. All right, Rigon Z says, Rigon is Ricardo. Thank you. Yeah, give me your names if you have funky names there, right? Ricardo from the email thread. Okay, I play online from Texas, but it's on an overseas books. Oh boy. Knightsbridge makes sense. It was some of my own fault. I overlooked him while hanging with the kids. Hey, Ricardo, I love you, man. Listen, Mr. Sette, I'm at the tender age of 63 now. I live my life with toddlers at home and having family commitments and gatherings, and I'm still trying to pay attention. It's not easy. Distractions come very easy with life, especially being a father or a mother. I'm only saying that because I realized the difference in the amount of time I could disperse to this game and sport and my process as compared to when, remember, my son, that's why he's coming to Saratoga. He's turning 30 July 31st, 30 years old, my son, Gio Jr. My daughter is 26. So this is what I'm talking about. At one time, they were 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, you know? And then I got divorced. They were still young, but I still saw them every other weekend and during the week. And listen, as much as I love the game, family always comes first. But you do have to plan, if you're going to be involved for a full day, that the kids know or your significant other is understanding it. It's part of what you love. You got to go with what you want to do. But you got to manage your time with that. All right, so I hear you. And if you were on nights, listen, Knightbridge was easy. He took in all the late money. He was even money. He's even money. I just couldn't get past Skippy because even in the slop, Skippy's been wonderful in the slop before. Skippy's beaten so much better horses. Just look at their two careers. But can't be right all the time. Knightsbridge, if that buy is correct, a 122, that's ridiculous. But you know what? He won the that wasn't a grade one. We're going to talk about the Haskell now because we know what's a winning get into the Breeders' Cup. I tip my hat to Knightsbridge. I still need to see a little more. He's a successful horse. He's a good horse. He was better than he ever was in that field. But he really only had to beat 2 horses. It wasn't a field of 10. It was in a sloppy mess. And he basically had to beat an up-and-coming Money Game and Skippy. So he beat 1.5 horses. All right? All right, so Scott. I live in Texas, Ricardo. All right, you're talking to each other. That's good. Engage in conversation with each other. I'll tell you one thing. For being a racing fan, I know a few people that live in Texas, with the exception of Lone Star. It's hard to get bets in. I hear what you're saying. You know, I've been always on the East Coast, born and raised in Brooklyn, and now I'm down the Jersey Shore, and I had my hands tied with certain things, but I always had an outlet very close by for simulcast wagering. Before they had the ADWs and we could bet from home, now I do 90% of my wagering from home. I go to the track when I want to make a day of it, you know. But I tell you the truth, when I go to the racetrack, I don't want the distractions. I kind of like keep to myself. Or if I'm with a good buddy of mine who doesn't do any handicapping, I'm his consigliere, you know, like he's got a lot of money. So he trusts my process. So I say, he bets. That's how it goes. So when I'm with him, all's good. And of course, he buys the beers and the sandwiches and everything. But my point I'm making, you know, when I'm at the track, I got to keep my focus. I got to live the values of focus to the finish. Unless I'm with my big man, Nick. Nick, if you're watching, you know that. I love you. All right. Cotterman says, do you think Skippy is getting long in the tooth? You know, when horses become a 7-year-old, you got to look at their physicality. One thing I said about White Barrio, remember when White Barrio defeated Sovereignty? You know, that day I had all my bets in on Sovereignty. And because what I saw over the track, the way he was at Oaklawn just looking poised and confident. And he had like this pirouette to his step. And Irad was on him. He looked sensationally athletic and youthful. That's White Barrio. So He's not long in the tooth. Now, White Barrio won that day, but his last race, he faltered terribly. So sometimes you see things over the track, all right? But to answer your question, no. Skippy's not long in the tooth. He's won that race in Charleston. He may win it again for the third straight year. It just wasn't his day. Listen, I could be a very fast runner, right? And I'm racing the guy next door who's not fast, and 9 times out of 10 or 10 out of 10, I'm going to beat him in a race. But say I just don't feel right. Say my stomach's a little queasy or whatever. I don't got it. Maybe that's the day the guy could beat me. Now, sure, it's a little different with thoroughbreds, 11, 12, 1,300-pound animals running 38 to 42 miles per hour. But that's just what happened with Skippy. Let's hope he got out of the race well. Because, I tell you the truth, when I said a little more past the 6 furlong mark, I said this horse is gone. I know when a horse is going to win a race or not. I knew there wasn't going to be any competition. I didn't think he was going to win by that wide margin. But to answer your question, because we got to get into the Haskell, then I got I got Saratoga stuff to talk about, and I got a horse in my barn who's running Thursday that I want to teach you something, and you're going to watch a race, and then we're going to bet this horse Thursday. And if we're successful, we get paid, but you're going to know my reasoning around it. So to answer your question, Cotterman, absolutely not. He's too much of a veteran, very much like his stablemate, White Barrio. They're both 7 years old. People thought White Barrio was cooked, and I go back to that day when he beat Sovereignty a few months ago. Sovereignty was prime. He was coming in on a layoff, but the way White Barrio looked over the track, what I did that day, if you don't remember this, I pulled back my bets. I didn't change my bets, but I saved all the money because I didn't want to go against how impressive White Barrio looked over the track. I wish I had a tape of him in the warm-ups because he was like strutting his stuff. He was like, he loved the oak lawn. It's something you could see with your trained eyes, if you know what I'm talking about. I remember, yes, and I said it on the show. I pulled back my wages. So trust me when I say this, Skippy is not done, and he will be back. And by the way, don't think for 1 minute, because money is money. I take pride in what I do as a handicap. Don't think because I have a love affair or I'm emotionally attached to a horse that I'm going to play him every single time. No way. I like Skippy. I've made a lot of money on him. Guess what? When Tyler won the Pegasus with Skippy, paid like $35, I wasn't on him that day. That should answer your question right there. It was earlier this year, January. He beat everybody. So, all right, Gio, when you handicap a large field, say 6 or 7, by the way, 6 or 7 is average, large is 10 or more, but I'll just say that. How deep do you go on a daily double ticket? And we're going to talk about ticket structure later because I really want to help you guys with something. Do you single your top over a second, cold, then spread or box another ticket or 2? Please advise. All right, Ruben. With daily doubles, remember, I'm a full card player, so I have a game plan for the day. So say we're talking about back-to-back stake races or a sequence of 3 races. Depending on, and remember, if I like a horse, whether he's 23-1 or 3-5, if I land on him as the most probable winner, according to my work, then price doesn't matter. How many times I can't stand when I hear a handicapper, even on YouTube, on another show. You know what? Yeah, he's too short of a price for me. So you like him, but he's going to be 9-5. You're going to fish for something else, lose, and let him win at 9-5, and you don't get paid. That's just silly. But to answer your question, by the way, I say respectfully, a large field is not 6 or 7. A large field I characterize at least 9 horses or double digits. So 9, 10, 11, 12. A large field, 6, 7, or 8 average, 5 or less small field. Okay? For the sake of characterizing things. So you say, how deep would I go? I always play my cold double first, but I use my own common sense. If in the next race, so say my cold double was 7-3, I play that first based on my available capital. That's first. But sometimes I'll go 2x2, or I'll take after my cold daily double, I'll use my top choice there, and I'll play a second double with the second and or the third. It's all relative if I'm alive in the pick 5, if I'm using the horses in the pick 3. But I always advise you stay with your strongest opinion and play those top 2 first with your biggest capacity limit. So somebody like myself, I don't play $100 doubles, but when I play a double strong, it's a $30 or $40 double, Now, if it's Kentucky Derby and the race before the Kentucky Derby and I have a strong opinion, then I may escalate it. But again, it's all relative to your own specific budget and how many races that you're accounting for during the day. And what do I always say? You got to rally around your wins. That's what I was saying. Guys, if you purchase, I don't even like to use the word purchase. If you were engaged in the $20 fee for my full Monmouth card, it had to help you be more successful because it was just laced with a lot of good stuff. So you take the good with the bad, which we're going to get into now. Let's talk about the Haskell. And then I'm going to talk about Saratoga and some of my findings. Okay, the Haskell. What happened at the Haskell? Let me tell you. First things first, if you follow me on Twitter, I actually printed it. I made a comment sheet because Twitter limits you to how much you can type. So I wanted to share this because if you're not following me on Twitter and you're new to the show, we got 30 people watching tonight. That's pretty good. I wanted a little more, but that's okay. But I have 1,183 subscribers. They all are notified. People got things to do, right? They're with their husband or wife in the living room watching a movie. They're playing with their small kids, or they're working, or they're out. If they're home doing nothing, they should be watching Mr. Sette, I'll tell you that. But that's okay, because this will be available in replay if you're not with us live. Remember, this is Q&A. Put questions up, and I will always address them, because I'm going to go back on the board after I go through my agenda. All right, so Baby Vino, how did that happen? So I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts that I wrote here. The only possible pros, all right, was Baby Vino had a win over that surface, over the racetrack. If you want to put that feather in your cap, he won over the track. A possible pro, because that field was a small field with significantly inferior company. It was a 5-horse field. Go look at the horses he beat. They're not good horses. And he won impressively. He did win 2 straight, but it's the Haskell. There were horses always coming into the Haskell winning 2 straight, or winning their last, or winning 2 back. Not really important. And he won at 9 furlongs before. But who'd he beat at 9 furlongs? A maiden special weight, weak field. So remember, it's not the odds. It's not the odds. It has nothing to do with him being 28-1. I said, if I like a horse, and if you follow me long enough, I had a horse. Look, I have many grade 1, grade 2 races where the horse I like was 12, 13, 14-1, 10-1, wins, and I didn't even consider anybody else. All right. The obvious cons. So if you're handicapping, this is what you didn't like. I'm just going to read this so I can expedite this, and I'll take your questions. Class deficiency was starting versus established grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 winners. So think about that for a second. One race as a juvenile, and it took him 5 starts to graduate. All those are contributing factors. Overall, significantly inferior, much slower speed ratings versus 5 of the 6 starters, not the horse that was on the rail. So significantly inferior speed ratings against 5 of the 6 starters. So they would have to regress, and he would have to run his fastest race he ever ran. But you can't predict that 4 other established, well-campaigned 3-year-olds are all going to falter at the same time and not show up. Then I said, although Vargas is a pretty good jockey, he's not a household name. He doesn't get many mounts in grade 1 races. I tip my hat to him. He's now a grade 1 winner, but Vargas was a deficiency. If you consider the jockeys that were in the race and their resumes and who they are, slow works coming into the race. I'm still going over the cons. We're going to talk about the thoroughbred because that's a very good point, Sean. Father Sean O'Neill says Baby Vino did have very good thoroughbred pattern. Only horses besides Further Ado to get 1 on the thoroughbred sheets. Yes, I was aware of that. But again, Sean, you gotta you gotta work up the entire field. And has nothing to do with price. Go with the logic. He won over the track. 5-horse field, beat nobody. I talked about those cons, the pros. I liked that he was a son of Vino Rosso, and Vino Rosso actually had a liking for the slop as well, if I can remember correctly. He won the Breeders' Cup Classic. But then I talk about the slow works, nothing special coming into the race. And then you got Winsley Schultz. Now look, I'm a big fan of up-and-coming Barnes, good stories like Cherie DeVoe. Has nothing to do with her being a woman. I just mentioned Cherie DeVoe because she won the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont. She's a woman. She's got a big stable now. But Winsley Schultz is a good trainer. You don't really see her in the scope of grade 1 races. But she was up against it in terms of who she was facing. So why did the horse win? They pulled it off. So congratulations to the connections. However, clearly on the win end, in my opinion, and I'm not saying I'm right about everything, but you want to tip your hat to someone that put $20 on Baby Vino and didn't bet anybody else? The horse was significantly aided by the conditions of the track and the fact that not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 horses, Further Ado, the Puma, and Commandment not showing up was another thing. We can add that to the mix. Hold on, help me out here. Let me see. Why am I not thinking of everybody? Further Ado, the Puma. Oh, Napoleon Soul. But no, Napoleon Soul ran a huge race. It's the other 2. I want to talk about the other 2. Further Ado, the Puma. Iron Honor, who, by the way, was completely out of sync. His whole campaign was twisted after Chad Brown lost Paladin. That horse was forced to run into the Preakness. He gave it a good run, but it sort of put him out of his campaign. I liked him in the exacta. I couldn't get past Further Ado, considering the full body of work, what he did as a juvenile, and what he did as a 3-year-old. Now, John Stetton, who passed away, he would say, he's got one of those habitual Z patterns, on again, off again. To me, and I say this, it's merely a coincidence. Remember, Fierceness was like that? And Fierceness then turned it all the way around. Fierceness was a monster at 4. Just a great racehorse. I don't know why he had no run. Who's the other horse we didn't mention? Let me see. There's one other horse in the Haskell I didn't mention who didn't show up. Who says it first? Hold on. It's not there. Oh, my God. How was it past my... We mentioned the Puma. We mentioned Further Ado, Iron Honor, and there's one more. One more. Let me see. Who's going to pop it up? Who else didn't show up? Scott Loveton, Perfect Storm. Not only the Perfect Storm, and by the way, I was delighted. When I knew my horse was dead in the water, everybody knows why I was delighted when Baby Vino came in on the rail and beat. I did not want to see Paco Lopez win the Haskell. Little Eyes. Who's Little Eyes? Perfect Storm. Who's the other horse in the race that failed to show up? Not the one. The one was just a filler. The one was going to run last anyway. Who's going to give the answer in the chat so I don't go to look in the computer and mess up my computer? Well, I'll just look on my phone. Can someone give the horse? And then we're going to change the subject. But hey, guys, I'll take any questions about the Haskell. Paco should have saved more ground. Eyes, Gio, Yeah, but what's the name of the horse? You're saying Eyes. It's passing my mind for some reason. Oselli. Oh, there you go. Oh, now, by the way, Oselli, of course, if you follow me long enough, you know that I thought he was a talented horse that could do something in the Kentucky Derby underneath. Oselli, even though he was the maiden, he's also beat better horses, raced with better horses. So you had the Puma, Oselli, Iron Honor, and Further Ado. Collectively, all didn't show up. Baby Vino wins. You think that horse, who a crazy scenario, is now in the Breeders' Cup Classic? You think that horse has any kind of shot in the Breeders' Cup Classic? You could put a line through that right now. Listen, it's a nice story. Pulled it off. I'm happy for Lindsay Schultz. I'm happy for the jockey. I kissed the ground and said, thank you, Lord, when Paco didn't win. I did not want Paco to win. All right? By the way, guys, one more thing on Paco. And don't think I'm picking on him because I'm going to keep it clean. He is a very undesirable individual. He's a horse abuser. But on Monmouth Day, and I said this on other shows, when he wins at Monmouth, they're tiny fields. He's got the best horse, and anybody would win those races, like Dylan Davis, Kenrick Carmouche, Manny Franco. I'm not talking about the superstar riders. But did you notice on Haskell Day, he had 12 mounts. He was 0 for 12. He had a few strong seconds, but you know why he was 0 for 12? Because he had superior jockeys in the races that he had mounts on. That's it. And I will never respect Paco Lopez because where there's smoke, there's fire. We all know about when he hit that horse in the face, but I've seen him. I've been to Monmouth enough times. The whip goes over his head habitually. He whips horses deep in the stretch when he's winning by 3 or 4, when they should be wrapped up in hands. He's a sick individual. I don't like him. And if you're watching Paco, that's right, my man. You could block me or never listen to a word I say. I don't like you, and a lot of other people don't like you either. Ernie says 5 wins for Pratt, 3 wins Vargas, 2 wins Saez, no Paco. Yeah. And you know what? Irad was in town, but we know how good Irad the very next day. What do you have, 4 winners at Saratoga? This illustrates the importance of footing, a fundamental factor. Yeah. I love those money bags. But you know what's happening at Monmouth? And it's distressing to me. I'm upset about it. The very next day at Monmouth, the day after the Haskell, they had one of the ugliest cards you can imagine. 4, 5, or 6 horse fields. Paco was an odds-on favorite 4 or 5 times, burnt the money. I think he spent time in Atlantic City boozing and gambling. He is a known gambler. So sometimes when you know, by the way, did anybody watch my show on, I was a little disappointed. I thought I'd have at least 1,000 views. There's like 400 views. My latest show where I talked about the inherent circumstances of being a horse player, the risk, the inherent risk. As a horse player, you could be the most brilliant, most knowledgeable, most astute handicapper. Somebody like myself, I try to use my experience to my advantage. So I'm confident in my ways. But still, we're up against what happens at racetracks. And like I said, I could swear on a stack of Bibles. I'm not going to mention names. I talk about on the show. If you haven't watched it, yeah, I talk a little too much about baseball and football, I realized, because I was talking about steroids and performance enhancement drugs. Because I talked about Sarvis and Jorge Navarro at Monmouth when they were drugging the horses and with crazy win percentages. But the one thing that happens to us as horse players, no matter how good your effort is in terms of handicapping, there is commingling and collusion happening very often at racetracks with the jockeys and or the trainers. Unfortunately, it's an inherent risk. So if you're ever wondering why a horse was completely flat or showed no run or potentially broke bad or is completely out of form, sometimes that's done intentionally for the inevitable big score. So when you see a horse that demonstrates no speed whatsoever, and it wouldn't be fair if I gave you a list of trainers who I know are breaking the rules. And there are some on Naira's circuit, no doubt. I've seen it at Saratoga already this year. And I don't like it. It's cheating. It bothers me. And it like takes our money and our hard work and our decision-making progress, and we have no control over it because you never know. And it's not so much juicing a horse to run, enhancing his performance. It has everything to do with the game planning or the jockey and or trainer maneuvering when they know a horse is going to take in all the money, which is going to escalate the price of another 2 horses, and he just has a bad day. A favorite off the board, so to speak. So if you didn't watch that show, I get into a lot of that later on that show. So I just figured I'd mention it if you haven't caught that show, because I talked about the inherent risk that we all unfortunately have. I'm not saying it happens all the time. It doesn't happen often in grade 1s, grade 2s, and grade 3s because many eyes are watching. It's more, especially grade 1s. But on the everyday, Wednesday, Thursday, whether it's at Turfway Park in Kentucky, Churchill Downs, Keeneland, Saratoga, even Woodbine in Canada, especially those folks that live in Texas at Lone Star, or what's the name of that track over in Oklahoma? There's a track over in Oklahoma. I can't remember, but California. It doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes we as horse players, we're victimized by circumstances we can't control, that we don't know, because we don't know what's happening in the barns, in the stable, what their game plan is. And that guy, Paco, he didn't win on Sunday either. You're right. Tell you, I laugh at some of the people at Monmouth who don't handicap. They buy the program. Oh, yeah. You got to play Paco Lopez. He wins all the time. You go ahead. You keep betting him. First of all, I don't know why. He's always an underlay, because I think that's all he does is he's a crooked individual. He's not that good. And whenever he's in races with superior jockeys, you see the result. Remington, Oklahoma. There you go. Hey, listen. Over the years, in my cell phone, my contacts, I have trainers, their cell numbers. And I got to keep it personal, but I've heard stories, especially in South Florida, more so. What's close to South Florida, guys, right? Cuba and all that stuff in the islands, The Gulf Stream meet that's going on now, not the championship meet, in the winter, leading to the Triple Crown. In my opinion, I wouldn't play Gulfstream in the summer, because there's a lot of maneuvering there. And you don't want to be challenged with that. Can it happen at Saratoga? Absolutely. But it's not as frequent. And I don't want to get off base. I don't want this show to be about that. But I am saying it with great passion. I understand this. I've spoken to John Stetton about this several times, and he knows. He says the same things. It bothers me because I'm somebody who is tooth and nail all in, and I put a lot of work into this. And how does it make me feel where someone's cheating? So no matter what I do, it's gonna negatively affect me. Sam Houston in Houston too. Yep. All right, so let's turn the page. Saratoga. And I'm going to give you a play. I'm going to teach you something, because my barn is with a lot of notes. I printed it out. Hold on. You can see I'm being authentic. I got everything marked up here. Everything. All right, so here it is. So I keep a very strict barn stable. If you guys have no knowledge of what's the best way to do it, either use your ADW, where you do your betting, or go to Equibase, and within Equibase, create a username and password. Go to the virtual stable. Virtual stable. You got data on jockeys and trainers, but more importantly, you control your virtual stable. You control your notifications for workouts and entries, and you could put whatever your comments are. So you know what you want to add to that. So when the horse is working out, when he's running, you're aware of it and you don't miss things. All right? So maybe someone can acknowledge in the comments if you've used Equibase. It's a great site. It's free. Yeah, there's some services you could pay for on there, but Equibase, virtual stable. I go to Blood Horse. Of course, I'm a big DRF guy because I'm a bias guy, as you know. I jumped ahead. I always do this because that's just who I am. When you mentioned the Thoroughgraph on Baby Vino, I think it was Sean who mentioned it. You're right. His pattern was good, but you gotta consider class. All right, John Stetton, I love him. He interprets the thoroughbred better than anybody I ever met. Thoroughbred. He doesn't like the buyers. I know how to interpret buyers. It's not just by who's got the fastest buyers. It's a lot more to it. You got to consider class, distance, size of fields, surface. You know, Baby Vino was a guess. Wow, he's 1-2 straight. Maybe at a big price, I'll take a shot. 4 other horses are going to have to wet the bed, but maybe I'll win. And he does it. So, thank you. I bow. I lose, you win. You know how often you're going to win with it? It had nothing to do with the price. Nothing to do with the price. Nice horse, but automatic bid to the Breeders' Cup Classic? You kidding me? You think that horse will be 70-1 in the Breeders' Cup Classic? Unless he turns into some monster from going from here and out, but won't happen. Look at the way journalism won. You think that horse is going to beat journalism? Did any of you guys watch that race in California? Journalism breaks at Delmar, spots the field 7 or 8 lengths with a bad break, and then he passed everybody like they were tied to the rail. Yes, use an Equibase virtual stable, Scott. There you go. All right, so with that, this Thursday, all right, this Thursday, I started handicapping the card because one of my horses is, and here's where I want you to go view the race. So you know, I don't have the technology to show you. Maybe this Focus to the Finish channel will grow to that. That's why there's a lot going on in Past the Wire. They got some great technology going. A big guy came in. He's spending a lot of money. I'm happy for John. But even before this new elaborate setup, he still had Jim, who's a videographer, and he knew how to put the races on the screen. I just don't know how to do it. I work too many hours full time, but I have to build that model. I want to for you guys. All right. So Ricardo signing off. You'll finish Horse Race Lemon. Is it still worth the squeeze? Horse Race Lemon. I'm on not. All right, hold on. I'll catch up with the comment. Ricardo, if you're signing off, watch the rest of the show tomorrow. All right. You got to get your beauty sweep, it looks like, or the kids need you. It's 10:15 or 10:11. All right. My horse for Thursday. Name of the horse is Considerate City. Considerate City. All right? It's a filly race. It's a 3-year-old filly. What you need to do is go ahead on your own time. Go to Aqueduct, June 28th. Okay? On the turf at the Big A. She breaks. She's back early. In hand. Racing well. Racing composed. Moved up after the first half mile, which was in 48. Then, something you have to notice when you're reviewing races. She willingly raced confidently in between horses. Then, as they turned for home, she was jammed again in the stretch, stuck in between and behind. And then Dylan Davis, who rode her that day, knew he had a lot of horse, a little bit of a jockey error, which leads to me what I'm going to talk about, because Gaff Leon's going to be on him, was full of run. In my opinion, with a better overall trip and a better ride, that horse wins that day on June 28th. Was a little less than 4-1. But I knew about the horse, and I bet that horse big that day. I was pissed off running second because I would have hit the double and I had a nice win bet on her. But if you go back, this is a horse that was awarded first place money going back, was a tiny little horse as a juvenile. And since she's turned 3, she's gotten more athletic and she's faster, as you might expect, going from 2 to 3. But this is her 4th race as a 3-year-old. And what I think is really encouraging, instead of running in the same condition, now they're putting this gal in the Susie O'Kane going a mile and a 16th at Saratoga. So the morning line, 8-1 with Tyler Gaffleone. I don't know what David Aragona was thinking with the morning line at 8-1. When I did my morning lines on this race, I thought the horse should be 4-1 because this filly did lose to a couple in the race. The 3, all of it, who's coming into the race 2 for 2, winning the maiden special weight and then winning the first allowance race from Miguel Clement. That horse is going to get money, but that horse needs a good trip. I don't want to deep dive this whole race because that would need a half hour. And because Irad's in this race on Celtic Dawn, all right? Now, Celtic Dawn is coming off 2 wins, 3 for 3, and the last being the New York Stallion. So my horse is facing the 3 who's 2 for 2 and the 5 who's 3 for 3. And you got Pratt on the 6. So I got to complete my handicap in the race. But no doubt I'm going to take advantage of the guaranteed overlay because the morning line, David Aragona made the horse 8-1 because of those horses. That means I'm going to get probably every bit of that, maybe 7 to 11-1. I hope it's more of an overlay. But I've seen enough. I think this is a talented filly who's primed to run a big race. So you're getting a heads up on Thursday. If you like somebody else, stick with your gut and your handicap. But if I played the late pick 5, or if I'm playing a double, if you're playing that race, you have to consider that horse. Just watch that race. And when you watch the race, watch the break, watch the backstretch, watch the far turn, watch in the stretch, and watch the level of acceptance, willingness to run in between tight and run well in between, and then to come out of a jam and then go to the wire. I actually think they took Dylan Davis off, switching at Gaffleone, maybe for that exact reason. But this is an ambitious placing for this horse to run after based on the last 3 races. And if you go back a few back, the optional claimer at Aqueduct, her first race at 3, who I also had her that day at 35-1, go watch the trouble she had there. So the barn worked on her being composed in traffic. If this horse don't win Thursday, let's see. She wins her next start. And that's all I'm saying. But go ahead and watch as an exhibit to see things that are not. You know what the form don't say nothing. You know what the form says? Their little comment: track to pit, mild kick. They didn't take into consideration the other things. Hey, look, if you think I'm wrong, you tell me I'm wrong. But I know what I've seen and seen often. That horse was willing and very capable and should have won that race. All right. So I got to go to some questions. I want to talk a little about Saratoga. All right. Journalism. almost lost his rider. He went down on his back legs coming out of the gate. Yeah, journalism's, and you know me, I was a sovereignty guy as 3-year-old, and I made all my money on sovereignty. But journalism is a beautiful horse who always runs a quality race. Forget about that race when they somehow put him going a mile, which I think it was in the Wilson Chute. When Saratoga had that festival weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Journalism wants every bit of a mile and a quarter or a mile and an eighth. But I told you, journalism passed that field like they were standing still. You know, very impressive, that effort. So his path is going to be one more race before the Breeders' Cup Classic. And that's a well put together horse. But sovereignty is still sovereignty. And there's a lot that needs to be decided. The Breeders' Cup Classic is not written in stone yet. That's another show. We'll talk about that when we get close to it. All right. Did that horse get Lasix in that June race? Which horse is that, Ruben? And who is the trainer, Cotton Man? The trainer is James Ferraro. Good barn. Not one that sets the world on fire, but consistent. If you're talking about Considerate City. Look, I'm telling you, I'll share my ticket before. That day, see, that's where about managing money. That's race 7. I'm betting that horse. So if I have $100 to put on him, it's going to be done early. You know, I just hope it's a nice day, and I got to look at other circumstances. But the reason why I'm excited about that horse I'm sharing with you is because I know who they're going to bet. They're going to bet Franco, the horse who needs a trip, is looking to go 3 for 3, and Irad's going 4 for 4. And Irad's new, taking over for Castellano, for Carlos Martin. You know? Yeah. Did Considerate get Lasix? Considerate? No. There's been no Lasix. She wears blinkers. I guess there are 2 races to watch. Watch her last race and watch that race, her first race at 3, where she was 35-1, and how bad when she was steady. Now, the form says she's steady, but the form does not talk about the challenges this horse had in the trip. And like I said, when I see a horse welcoming, running inside, in between horses, and then accelerating from that, or like Dylan did in a stretch, swing, he was a little late for what he did. Should have won that day. Now, by the way, I don't think that I'm a guy, I bet a horse last time and he's in my virtual stable, then I'm going to bet him again automatically. No, it gives me the notification that she's running, and then I got to handicap the race. But I don't see any killers in the race from a buyer's and thoroughgraph perspective. Same as everybody. There are no stars in the race. So Irad's horse who won 3 straight, he went from a 61, 72 to an 80 buyer. He is a stakes winner, but now that horse is stretching out. I have a little reservation about that horse stretching out. And then all of it, who could be the better horse, Franco's horse, I think needs a good trip. I respect the barn, built for the distance, and is definitely a legit contender. So, and I took a good look at Pratt's horse too, because Pratt's horse in that same race, again, when you get these horses, you got to learn to do one thing as a handicapper. Recognize the physicality at 2 and how that's changed seeing them race at 3. Okay? By default, they should be faster, but you want to convince yourself that, the filly or the colt really looks good. I like athleticism. I like, ever hear somebody say the horse is handy? Well, that horse is handy. And it's proven a number of times to me. Like I said, I just figured it was right for me to share that tonight. And that's where, it's a nice field. It's a nice field. The one has run 2 good races for Mark Casse, the New York Special. It really is a nice field. Matter of fact, you could, I think you could, Daily Racer Form, I think it's their race of the day on Thursday. So you can even get what their opinions are if they do the show. I hope if I see that show and nobody mentions Considerate City, I want that. I don't like when other people are on my horses. But let's see what happens. But she's a filly to watch going forward. Now let's talk about something I had in my mind. Yeah, she's 8-1. 8-1, and you may get every bit of it. The morning line is off. That horse, based on the visual aspects and the races that she's run, being competitive, she could have won 2 or 3 of those races. But she didn't. She just got awarded win money going back when she was a maiden. Sometimes that's why I do my own morning lines. My morning line in that horse is 4-1. So obviously it's to my advantage if the horse is 8-1. Anyway, I have others I could talk about. I just wanted to mention that horse because she's on the calendar this Thursday. Let's talk about Saratoga, and then we're going to bridge over to the Belmont opening. I'll talk about a little of that transition, and then what we're looking forward to the fall and what I'm going to be doing on this channel, and then I'll take some questions and answers. All right, we'll field questions. Mike, yes, sport card collector. What I'm doing now, I said, why should my Twitter only be for horses? I was doing some gaga. I was sharing my food, my Sette creations in the kitchen. And now I'm starting to share some of my football and or baseball cards on there because my son started his X or Twitter page, and he introduced me to a page that the guy's got like 140,000 followers, and he's a big time card guy. So to answer your question, love the hobby. It's one of the things that my son and I are very close with. I am vintage baseball and NFL football, and my son is all NFL. But if you want to see some of my collection, I got some. My son's got a real nice collection too, but we love ripping. We love getting good hits and then grading them. And when he was over for the weekend, that's why I knew his knee was banged up. When he was over for the weekend, we intentionally bought blaster boxes and mega boxes so we could rip them together. And I pulled a great card. You know what card I pulled? For Giant fans. Neighbors, their wide receiver. I got a case hit, Fanatical, from the Topps Chrome. So the box cost me, I paid a little premium for it because I wanted to open because all the stores are sold out. So I paid $52 for the box, but this one card, Roar, is a $100 card. If I get it graded, it's going to be a $300 or $400 card. So to answer your question, Mike, yes, I love the hobby. Not so much with basketball and hockey. I'm entirely baseball, vintage baseball, 60s, 70s, and 80s, some new baseball, and very current NFL. So if any of you is watching this or into sports card trading, shoot me an email. We'll have a conversation one day on cards, okay? But this is a racing show, so I don't want to get off tilt here. Mike, hey, that's a good bet. That's a good bet. Getting a bean from me. I'm betting that horse. And look, I know you respect the game. I just think the horse is primed for big effort. And by coincidence, Dylan Davis was the rider. All of a sudden, Dylan Davis is off the horse, and Tyler Gaffalione. I'm definitely playing the horse, which I do. By the way, with my stable, I get my notification. It's not so much a trouble trip. I follow campaigns. If I lose on a horse that I highly touted, it stays in my memory bank. But then I follow the campaign. And then horses that just open your eyes and you really feel like they're prime, like Sovereignty last year. I like Sovereignty as a 2-year-old, and I loved them in the Kentucky Derby. But that's we're talking grade 1. With horses in allowance races, claiming races. By the way, that collusion, most of the collusion I talked about will happen in claiming races from a $5,000 claimer to, let's call it, a $20,000 claimer. Most. They have that track in Cincinnati, Belterra. If they're still open, I think they closed down. Parks, Delaware, Finger Lakes. I cringe when I know somebody plays Parks all the time. That's just an undisciplined individual. Now, you could be a fan of Parks, but you got to know what's going on in those stables. There's one day to play Parks, in my humble opinion. That's Pennsylvania Derby Day, because the big boys are there and there's national coverage. But, you don't have to be just the main circuit, but don't waste your money at, some of those tracks at night, Delta Downs, Turfway Park I like. In the winter on a synthetic, I made money there, but I accept the reality that there's a lot of maneuvering going on in the barns. Paco lost at Park. Sean, listen, you're just preaching to the choir here, man. You want to have a Paco bashing party? I'll do that anytime. He's an incredibly narcissistic, bad human being. But as a jockey, I think he's grossly overrated. Yes, he's got Bookham Dano. That's his prize. And he's an aggressive rider. His skills as a rider are not bad. But the problem is he has no respect for other riders. He did it. Go watch Baby Vino and Napoleon Soto. I was going to write to Naira. Now, in that stretch run, the whip went over his head like 4 times. He's a mental case. Listen, you don't got to be alive very long to know this. You know the saying where there's smoke, there's fire? When he hit that poor horse in the face with his whip, what do you think? That's a 1 and out, a first-time occasion? Did Pratt ever do that? Did Jerry Bailey ever do that? Did Gary Stevens? Irad or Jose? No, they're good guys. He's a sick individual. Forget Paco. Paco, let me tell you. So, you know what someone wrote to me? You want to laugh? Somebody who paid the fee for my handicap. I would never do this to you guys. If I like a horse definitively that Paco's on, then he's my top choice. But by coincidence, on Haskell Day, I had Paco in the money a few times, but I didn't land on him once. So the guy who wrote to me thought I had a bias against him. When I had full Serrano, when I went to Saratoga the first time this year, I had every reason to like full Serrano. And I still stand by my bet. And me and my buddy who bets a lot of money, we pounded him that day. And I singled him on my pick 5 and my pick 3. You know what happened to full Serrano that day? Do you remember? He got cooked on the lead by an allowance horse who never showed that kind of speed, who ran his eyeballs out, and it was jockey error. Because you can't run a 43 half, 21:43, and expect to beat a horse like Bookham Dano. So Paco got lucky that day with Bookham Dano. I was going to play him that day. But generally speaking, yeah, what's happening at Monmouth is sad, because I've gone to Monmouth for years, and I've said it often. I understand the Friday card having 8 races, because it's a Friday card. But there's Saturday and Sunday cards, and I feel bad for Matt Dimmerman, a friend of mine, who I've met, spoken to, hung out in his race call room with him, Matt Dimmerman. And he's got the gig. He's an excellent race caller. But Monmouth just lost a lot of its luster. The barns aren't busy. The fields are not good. Paco's there. And I don't want to be there when he's got 6 mounts and he's 3 to 5 in every race. I don't want to be there. Now, sure, sometime that can help you. So I keep my eyes open. Here's another tip for Mr. Sette. Sometimes, if you handicap some Monmouth races, he's got no business being 3 to 5 or 4 to 5. It's the stupid people attending the track. They're making him 3 to 5, 4 to 5. So you short him, throw him out, and you handicap the race. And then sometimes you get a $75 exacta on 2 horses that the exacta should have paid $20. It happens. But enough about Paco. Paco, I swear, I hope Paco sees one of my videos, because I can't stomach the guy. And I have no problem if he heard me saying it. And you know what? Inevitably, he's going to be banned from racing because he's got a behavioral issue. He will be banned. And you know what bothers me one more about him? The steward suspended him for 30 days. He's going through this appeal. Why did he have an opportunity to have 12 mounts on Haskell Day? I love that he was 0 for 12. All right, enough of him. He's a cockroach. We don't need him. If anybody knows Paco, say, Paco, you got to watch this Sette guy. He really likes you. Take a look at what he says. All right, back to the business and task at hand. I want to give you another pearl. I just hit an exacta. Now, by the way, if I wasn't preoccupied with other things, I had a wonderful Sunday, guys. After the Haskell, I shared some of I didn't share everything, but I shared, because I was like tapered down from a very involved day. So Sunday was for me. But I said, let me share some things on X, Twitter. So anyway, I had a couple of real nice exactas. I hit the pick 5 at Delmar, and an exacta at Delmar, and I had a few daily doubles, really nice. But one race, guys, I posted my ticket, and I'm mad at myself for not putting 30 on the exacta. I put 15 on the exacta. Paid nice. I got over $1,000 for a $15 ticket. Exacta paid $145. But the story behind that race, if you go ahead and handicap the race, I landed on 4-1, which was the exacta. But what was really important here, and for the rest of the Saratoga meet, this is a pearl for Mr. Sette. All right, hold on. Hot Rod Horse Player says, I can't believe Miramati, with all those workouts of 2 months, never missed a beat, even had the Bob Baffert 6 furlong special, and the horse just stopped, shaking my head. Hey, I have no problem with you taking Miramati that day. To be honest with you, I just watched that race because I didn't handicap it fully. I was in awe when I watched what journalism did. But, hey, listen, sometimes it's perplexing. Sometimes you look at a campaign, you look away the horse's training, and then you get nothing but a donut. It happens. It's an unfortunate part of the game. And on the stakes, on the stakes level, yeah, it hurts. That's one of the things you always got to put into consideration in the Kentucky Derby because the post position and the trip is everything. You don't think I was disappointed at what happened with Commandment in Kentucky Derby? And then I was on Commandment. He ran a huge race in the Belmont. All right, guys, that was Jose Ortiz that won that Belmont Stakes. Commandment, in my opinion, in the stretch, he had enough horse. People, I was watching some other handicappers saying, "Oh, Commandment, he was used up in the Kentucky Derby. He's not going to make a mile and a quarter. He's not built for the distance." I didn't listen to any of that. I loved Renegade and Commandment on Belmont Stakes Day, and I ran second and third. If you want, you remember my deep dive and everything, or my handicap. But Jose Ortiz with Golden Tempo, the way he found that lane in the stretch, it was his skill. The jockey won that race. Commandment, I wanted him to run at the Haskell. I really did. Because I thought he was going to be ripe for it. Cutting back, a mile and an eighth. And he would have bossed that field. But we'll never know. So I hear you, Hot Rod Horseplay. But what I wanted to say about that exactor I hit, Jose Ortiz was on the 4, and I felt he was the most likely winner of the race. But the reason why, and I'm pissed I didn't hit that triple. And guys, I played the race so well. I should have hit the triple, but Mr. Sette, when he's precise, he's precise. And I missed the third horse, who I thought could have been competitive, but I just was decisive against him. But anyway, the one horse, and remember this for the rest of the meet, the Wilson Chute, that 1 mile configuration. So if you see a dirt race going a mile on the dirt, you have to understand, you got to look at the full body of the horses that you're playing. You got to understand the rider, and you got to understand how imperative it is for the post position and the horse's ability to get a good start in that race. Another comment, Baffert went to Ellis Park and won with Cash Call. Yeah, that is correct. Hold on. So to stay on topic, so in that race, go back and get the form. Luis Saez was on the 1 for a pretty good barn with a horse that was improving. I knew the horse was going to move forward from a buyer and thoroughbred perspective. But most importantly, it's the position of the horse I felt the horse would have coming out of that Wilson Chute. You know about that dog leg left. And then to be in prime position with tactical speed to be in contention the whole race. I made that horse to be 8-1. When I saw 22-1, I couldn't believe it. Now, you may say, Gio, why didn't you play more than a $15 exacta? First of all, $15 exacta is not bad. I did play it the other way in case he stole the race, so it wasn't a box. I never go even. I went 15-5, but I played a pretty significant pick 5, which I did not hit, and I used in doubles both those horses, so I placed my money in other categories rather than vertically, because I like to play the triple and the super. But still, the horse was 22-1. And I swear to you, before they get out of the gate, I said to myself, wow, I'm going to feel really good about this. And I almost padded my bet. I almost put another 10 to make it a $25 exacta, but I kept it at 15. But I'm giving you my reasoning. That horse had speed, was switching to Saez. Sayers has a lot of experience with that Wilson shoot and the importance, if you're the one horse, to be aggressive and get out. So he was on the right horse who was improving, and it wasn't a killer field, but I knew Jose had the best horse. So it worked out. It doesn't always work out. So the takeaway in 1 mile dirt races for the remainder of the Saratoga meet, this is what you want. You want good jockeys on horses that habitually break well or demonstrate consistent tactical ability. Because you could draw a picture in your head if you look at the entire field. If you got a good horse and he's got that challenging post, 7, 8, or 9, if it's that deep of a field, you're up against it. You're up against it. It's not a two-turn race, but it's almost like a two-turn race. I'm sure you've all heard about it, but I had him in that double, paid 132. Yeah. And that's the only reason why I hit that exacta, but I had at least, I don't know, somewhere in the area, $150 invested in that horse. Not just in that exacta, because I was doing well. I was having a good day at both tracks. And guess what happened to me? I posted my ticker on Twitter. And this, we all make mistakes, but I was bothered by this. In the early pick 5 at Delmar, true story, I completed my handicap. Remember, sometimes I'm in my zone. I do my own thing, guys. I can't post and share emails and post all the time. I wish I did, because there was a lot of good stuff on there, but sometimes we're in our own zone. But I did share my ticket because Mr. Sette never Cowboys tickets, ever. I don't care how much money, and I'm not rich. I got my bills. I got my bills. But, I'm budgeted for my racing day. And I disperse my wagering capacity, I feel, the right way. I'm not the world's best bettor, but you know what I think is foolish? The people that it don't matter if you got the money, that put $300-$400 pick 5 tickets in, because that's saying they're afraid of getting beat, so they need to use more horses. But in the long run, if you keep a book. If you're a pick 5 player, keep a book. And you guys notice I've hit dozens and dozens of pick 5s. To be honest with you, I'm still waiting for that high note. I'm still waiting for that big one. I'm laughing because my good man, what's his name? One of my guys is on here, and he makes this reference to Ralph Crandom not hitting a high note. All my pick 5s are, I've hit a few in the $4,000 mark. I hit a pick 4 that paid $6,600. Pick 4, a few years back in a simulcast. But the pick 5 ticket, here's where I made a wrong window decision. So I hit a double earlier in the sequence, within that same sequence. But in the third leg, you could go see the ticket. I had bigger priced horses that I knew were running in legs 4 and 5. But in the third leg, which I went 4 for 5 in the pick 5, my third choice was only 4-1 on the board. I knew he was a contender to win, but I only used my top 2. And this is what hurts us all at times, those window decisions. So it's a $54.50 pick 5 ticket. The pick 5 paid, I believe it was $1,800 and change. I had all the tough horses, but in the race I lost, and I believe I ran second and third, the third choice on my handicap wins. So that's one that got away. That's what I'm saying. And guys, it'd be exciting if you ever do this. If you don't do this, do this. Say you're making a pick 5 ticket, and your pick 5 ticket is $36, or my famous 54, 3x3 deep, 2x2 deep if you don't have a single. Play a cold pick 5, $1. Just 5 winners in a row. It happens. If you feel like it's an impossibility, but don't you have a better shot at making money with that because you're handicapping, than going to your tobacco shop or your newsstand and playing a $1 scratch-off ticket? So play a $1 cold. But if you a 50-cent pick 5, if you take the top 2 in every race, it's only $16. So what I do, I play my top 2, $16 pick 5, and then I have a second ticket, which my top 2 wins by default if I go 3 deep in a few other races. Gabish? So there's many parallels, if you will. There's many different scenarios of how you structure your tickets. But the bottom line is, if you're playing a full card, it's easy. If you're just playing a late pick 5, then that's where your focus is. Just try to hit a daily double or a pick 3 within that sequence, so your pick 5 ticket is financed or paid for. Can't tell you how many times I do that. So you can either do this on a spreadsheet if you're so inclined with Excel, or you want to do it old school, like in a composition notebook. Write the date, the track, your pick 5 tickets, results. So if you played a $54 pick 5 and a $16 pick and lost them both, put the results down, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5, minus, and minus. So you know how often you hit them. And if there's some sort of level of consistency, and are you funding or financing the cost of your tickets within the sequence by hitting doubles or pick 3s? I can't tell you how important that is. And vertically, and I think you all know this, so I don't want to repeat myself too much. With the superfecta, I am very successful with superfectas. One of my followers, he's a big superfecta player, and we have a good relationship. I always play my cold superfecta. The first thing I do, $1 or $2 straight, because if I'm right, I'm getting paid. Whether it's a grade 1 Whitney or a optional claim or a maiden claim or first level allowance or a listed stakes race, whatever the class, maiden special weight, maiden race. If I come to a conclusion of my handicap, and you'll have a lot of fun when you hit them. Guys, I have archives. If you want to see examples of cold superfectas, I got them. I got archives. But play it cold, $1, not bets, $1 or $2. Or if you're so inclined, $5. If you feel, if two of the horses, if you love the exact and you feel like you got 1-2 stone cold, then play a $5 straight, because if you hit the exactor, it's finance. But you got to incorporate, and you got the convenience of practice at low cost. If you have a limited budget, you could use 10-cent, 20-cent, 30-cent increments. When I have a strong race, I start with $1. But sometimes, Mr. Sette, because I've handicapped the race, I'll do the 50-cent variety or a 20-cent variety. You got to do your superfecta key. You land on your winner. That's the foundation. And if you have an opinion where you feel there's 3, 4, or 5 horses that can easily hit the board, especially if they're on the board at a big price. Remember, this is vertical wagering. so you know what the board's telling you. So you got your cold, but then you got a key. And with my friend Nicky, and he's right, and I can't tell you, we were at the, I'll tell you a quick story. We were at the Borgata in Atlantic City in their race book. And it was a field of 13. And he got my precise order. This is a true story. Got my precise order. And he saw on the board, he couldn't believe what my precise order was reading. So he saw my top 6. And nobody was in single digits. So he said, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to play it precise and maybe a key, but I got to box these guys. I got to box them. I want mayhem. I want the race to be out of control, but I want to use your horses, Gio. You're my man. Sure enough, he did. It was for 10 cents. You can imagine the money he made because he bet dollars. The 10-cent super that day paid $1,400 because 4 of my horses came in, and the top 2 were like 28-1 and 18-1, and the third horse was 40-1. It was a beautiful thing. What I'm trying to say, if you see the board is loaded based on your handicap or as a reference my handicap, you got to be smart. My buddy John says he never boxes. Boxes are for Christmas presents. John, if you're watching, I understand your style. But if the board's telling you, based on your handicap, and I'm going deep, that you got inflated odds, overlays on just about all of them, or I like to say at least half of them. So if you handicap 6 horses in a superfecta, play your cold superfecta, because if you're perfect and precise, you want to get paid, play your key. But if the board's telling you you don't want to lose a photo, then play the box, what you can afford. Did you know this? A 10-cent superfecta box using 6 horses, you only need 4 to hit the board, is $36. So if you got the race covered strong and you're winning for the day, why not throw a 10-cent 6-horse box? Costs $36. You know how many 10-cent superfectas you see pay $800, $1,000, $1,200? They happen all the time. $500. You'll make money that way. All right, did I go too long on that? Sometimes, look, it's all hard. Sometimes I'm a little. I expand myself a little too much, but that's just who I am. You got to deal with it. All right. Hot Rod says, I don't even handicap full cards no more. I just focus on the last 4 races for 2 pick 3. Hey, Hot Rod's making an interesting point. Everybody doesn't need to be Gio Sette. I'm telling you what I'm made out of. When I do a deep dive show on this channel, Graded Stakes Race, I'm betting the race, and I'm betting it precisely as I'm sharing with my followers. All right? I'm playing a strong exacta, I'm playing a strong triple, and I'm playing a superfecta. And I announce if I'm using my top choice as a single, or if I'm going 3 deep in the pick 5. I'm consistent with what I present. But Hot Rod's making an interesting point. You may be a type of player, because remember, the key is, what do you handicap? If it's a 10-race card and you don't want any business to be involved in the first 5 or 6 races, then don't be. I always say, if I handicap them, I'm not going to burn a good handicap to go uncashed. I'm betting it to some degree. I'll play a smaller pick 5. I'll play small exactas. I'll play a pick 3 for $4 because I handicapped the 3 races. Because if I'm right, I want to be paid. Pick 3 is a valuable tool, guys, because my favorite pick 3 is 1 by 2 by 3. my favorite one. Because within that pick 3, I'm going to play my double, my 1 by 2. And either I hit my large double or I hit my secondary double. But pick 3 being a rolling bet, there's a lot of things you could do with a pick 3. That's why I was sharing. Look at this. If you can see it up close, see all these purple marks? When I say down the line, the winning horse of the race, and prices too, top choice, second, third, top, second, third, second. Nothing wrong with the handicapping, so I got to get paid. So if you got a lot of first, seconds, and thirds, you're going to hit pick 5s, you're going to hit pick 3s. Yeah. Do you want to hit top? Absolutely. But you also got to read the board. So good point. Nope, keep cooking. I love learning. Hey, I like to share a couple of things. I'm always going to be enthusiastic, guys. It's just who I am. I put a lot of passion, a lot of love for the sport. And obviously, you talked about Skippy Longstocking being a little long in the tooth. I'm 63 years old. Now, I'm still a strong guy. And some people even ask, a few years ago, this is a true story, talk a little about health. I'm a healthy guy. But just a few years ago, when I was 60, 61, I was a monster. Like I was 195 pounds, a tank. Now I weigh 175. And I'll tell you why that happened. So I was never a big, heavy guy. So where did the 20 pounds go? The 20 pounds came off of my legs, my rear, and some of my muscle mass in my shoulders, chest, and arms because I ate better. What happened was I went for a doctor's appointment and my labs were tilting the wrong way. So I have such a passion for food and drink. I didn't realize how much processed garbage I was eating. We all know it tastes good. So I curbed it. I started eating differently. I made my Sette breakfast with sweet potatoes, not potatoes, no more bacon, no more processed cheeses. And, I just had a terrible diet. So I started eating cleaner and more whole foods. And I went from a 195-pound tank to a 175 tank. So I lost, because I'm 63, I lost some of the muscle mass, but it's still me. And why did I mention that? Because she said, no, keep cooking. I love learning. At this stage of my life at 63, I want to use my experiences I've had in and around the racetrack, especially what I call pearls as a handicapper, because I'm so seasoned and I really interpret things in a very controlled manner. My win probability, that's why I told you I have a couple of close friends. One guy's got a lot of scroll. He doesn't do any handicapping. I say he bets and he trusts me. That's just the relationship we have. But I always promote one thing. Because there are nuances we can't control, and we know how difficult thoroughbred racing, forget about the trotters. The trotters I would never endorse the trotters. I don't want to sound derogatory, but I always classified the trotters with being in a category of a degenerate type of gambling. It was never for me. But thoroughbred racing, it's exciting, it's a challenge, and if you love thoroughbreds, and if you like the framework, everything that makes a racetrack what it is, and a sport as a whole, then you want to get better as a handicapper. And it takes a long time to develop the skills because there are a lot of contributing factors. But because I'm doing it so long, I'm a much better seasoned handicapper in terms of the thoroughness of my handicapper now in my 50s and 60s than I was in my 30s. Absolutely. In my 30s, my son and daughter, they were little babies running around the house. I had obligations, I had commitments, I had priorities. I still liked the sport. I still watched the Kentucky Derby. I still handicapped when I went to Belmont and Monmouth. But my attention to detail just wasn't, it's harder then. It is, it's harder because, you know, my ex-wife never worked. I was the breadwinner. I did everything, and I still play. I played baseball, hardball till I was 40. I was a pretty good athlete in my school years and 20s and 30s, leading to the age of 40. Now it's just I go to the gym. You know, I suck at golf, but I like to play golf when I can. I'm just not good because I don't practice enough. You golfers out there, if you're good, you know what you know, I'm not a good golfer yet, but I just don't hit enough balls. Hot Rod says, and that's why I listen, Gio. You take pride in your work. You and John. Hey, thank you for the kind words. And listen, what you see is what you get. That's why I was telling people, because I love to write, and it's a very it's tough putting notes together and then put into paragraph form or whatever. I was telling people, what do you like more? Do you like the fully written handicap or my precise order win probability graded grid? And a lot of people tell me, Gio, that's just as effective because I know the work that you put into it. I'm happy they say that because, yes, the why is very important. But unless you're with me in my office or at the track with me, you're not going to know the why unless I had an opportunity to elaborate, But yeah, it matters to me because I do it for myself, and I would never share my opinion without being thorough with my process. And trust me, my process is made up for the new viewers. It's significant daily racing form, past performance reconciliation. But I'm very serious with my pedigree, bloodline handicapping, my viewing of races, my viewing of workouts, and then the intangibles, the things I see in a racehorse. Like I said, the physicality, whether they run the same way when they're eyeballed, or that's part of film race review. But there's a lot of things that it's a skill you clearly develop with the reps over a period of many, many years. It's hard to say, And then you get some gals or young guys who are part of the networks that cover, and like Maggie, or who's that other Miss America girl? She's with Naira. She grew up around the track. She's a young woman, but she knows. They know what they're talking about in the post parade and in the barns, because I hear what they have to say. I know who makes sense and who doesn't make sense. So that's another thing you get a knack of. And there's some phony people out there. Be aware of the phony people out there. A, they don't handicap. B, they're selling nonsense. Guys like John and I, we know the difference. John is as seasoned as you'll find in the sport because of how many years he's doing it. His style is a little different, and his capacity is different because he bets differently. But how we bet is a little different than how we handicap. Sometimes I need to sharpen my saw as a bettor. Sometimes I get a little aggressive, or I should have included a horse that I didn't because I want to skinny the ticket too much. There are a lot of variables involved here, Ernie says, to me, trotters are like watching paint dry. I'm gonna read this comment. I can't figure them out. Anyway, don't start from the same place. Look, I've spoken to some people who are into harness racing, and they say you don't understand, Gio, you can handicap it. I call BS. I don't like it. I think it's a crooked sport. You know, that's not a true horseman if you're into trotters and paces and harness racing. Where you have a guy my size whipping a horse, trying to get position. The real skill is jockey on horse, thoroughbred racing, flats. Acacia Courtney Clement. Yes. Jen said Acacia. Acacia, who, if you remember, she started out in South Florida. I think she was a Miss America or she won a beauty. She's a very attractive woman, but she's a very knowledgeable horsewoman. She was at Gulfstream Park being the paddock reporter, offering her thoughts, soup to nuts. And now she's a good fit. And she ultimately married, a trainer in the business. That's why she's Acacia Courtney Clement. Her and Maggie, who speaks at Keeneland on that circuit, she's good. I listen to her. She's pretty good. Jeannie, okay, Jeannie, you're right. So if Jeannie's a woman, which I believe you are, those are two ladies you should listen to. They're good at what they do. They're knowledgeable. So you don't have to be an older guy like me to have good knowledge, especially if you grew up in a stable or grew up on a barn, or if you studied equines, or somebody that's seasoned. So she's a young woman, but she's got to be in the business. I'll take an educated guess, probably 12 to 15 years, maybe more. And she's got the background for it. Timothy O'Hare, hey, Gio, just tuned in. Still drying out from Saturday. Long and messy day. Yeah, Tim, go back and watch the replay tomorrow. We talked a lot about my handicap, the full card, the weather delays, and the Haskell. Andy, Boy Plunger, my man, yes. Andy Biacone, yeah. So when you're experienced around racetracks, the barns, the stables, the paddock, when you listen to someone, you know if they're making sense or if they have intelligence that's competent. And then the same way, when you're hearing bullshit. Did I say bullshit? BS. And I'm not going to mention names, but there were some young kids on TVG when TVG was really growing that I didn't care for. I had to mute them. I couldn't listen to them anymore. When they were giving their analysis or their opinion, some guys I respected, others I didn't. But those gals you're mentioning, yeah, Acacia's really good. So is Maggie. What's Maggie's last name again? I'm not saying it right. Someone pull her last name there. Hold on. Who's Maggie in Thoroughbred Racing, an analyst?
Maggie Wolfendale.
Well-known
lead paddock analyst and reporter.
Maggie Wolfendale. Maggie, if you're watching, I love you. You're a smart lady, and I like what you have to say.
Saratoga Live and America's Day at the Races.
By the way, you see how we all use our phones? I said this on another show. When you're handicapping bloodlines, when you're doing your pedigree work, especially with 2-year-olds and or 3-year-olds, when a horse is 4, 5, or 6, remember, all the sires that you see, I watched them horses run. So that's all upstairs here. So I have an edge. I have that history upstairs. I still look things up, but I know where where the greatness lied. And then you have horses like Speightstown, who did all his running on dirt, but he's a great, so the late Speightstown. He passed away in, I believe, in 2023 or 2024. But his kids, his fillies and colts, they would run and run very effectively on turf and dirt, even though he was just a dirt horse. You know, Maggie's dad, Harry. So I'm going to go to some Q&A because now we're 2 hours into the show. Sean says, Maggie's dad, Harry Wolfendale, just died. Long-time Maryland trainer, and she trained horses and won them too. Yeah. So Maggie, she sounds like she's got the racing pedigree. She's very informative, as is Acacia. I like them both. All right. Now, I don't want to spill out names. There are people on NYRA who Mr. Sette respects and has a relationship and has met and had conversation with. And there's people on NYRA who I don't respect. I actually think I could be a better resource, but not that I want to apply for something on NYRA, but you get the point. We all have people who we acknowledge and we respect and we want to listen to, and we have others we don't care for, we don't want to listen to, you know? I'm not the most articulate guy, but I know what I'm talking about when it comes to handicap and thoroughbred racing, because I've thousands and thousands and thousands of races. And we all win and lose, but I put myself in a position to be more successful because there's no stone left unturned. That's what I'm about. And I've reaped the benefit of that. And that's why I have some people that they have the money. I do their handicapping. That's what I'm there for. And then other people who handicap, they stand by what their findings are, but they want to hear what Gio Sette has to say, just like I want to hear about what others have to say too. And others, I don't even want to listen. I consider them mushes. All right. Jeannie's saying Wolfendale married to trainer Tom Morley. Yes. Darren says, by the way, what happened to Sarah? Yeah, she's with DRF. She's pretty good too, not as in-depth as the others. I don't want to say any negative things, but that's a good mention here. And Andy Serwin's been doing things a very, very long time. We have different styles of capping. I'll leave it at that. Timothy says Liam Mapp and more than ready are under the radar turf sires. It's a fair point. Yes, because just because, like Kitten's Joy, you know, if you're a Kitten's Joy, you're going to do well on a turf. All right? But you got to go further into the bloodlines and recognize the offspring, the fillies and colts that came out of certain dams, or more importantly, certain sires. I only mentioned that Speightstown horse because what's unique about him is he did all his running, successful running, on the dirt, but many horses that are sons and daughters of Speightstown running in turf sprints do really well. Sort of like Justify. Justify won the Triple Crown, had a short career, but Justifies offspring do really well on the turf, right? On the lawn. But maybe we'll do another live show only about bloodlines and pedigree. I gave you a couple of vehicles. It should be part of your game. Take interest in that because especially with 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. Because you know what I said? When a mare's 5 years old, you pretty much know what she's about, even though some mature and they could actually become better racehorses at 5 or 6 or be more successful at 5 or 6. But you get what I was just saying. All right. I'm going to turn this show, the rest of the way to some Q&A. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Joe is up, says, Paisan, would you consider a show on your thought process on how you attack any given race? You know, I want to do that. If I had, I have a lot of responsibilities in life. My full-time job, you know, I'm in risk and fraud. I do interrogations. I look for cheaters. I don't want to give away my employment, but I'm a busy guy. But I understand my company's technology, but I need to learn how to get race review on my shows, you know, how to make my YouTube channel more accessible to graphics and replays and all that. I haven't had the time to incorporate that to the Focus to the Finish channel, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I do want to do that. But my approach on any given race, it all depends on the magnitude of the race and the size of the field and how much I know the horses. So if it's a 4 and up race, and I'm very familiar with the horses in the race, I don't have to watch as much race review unless I'm looking at a specific race, because I know the embodiment, because I've seen so many of those horses run before. So I don't have to review as much of their races because that would waste my time. But I watch a lot of 2 and 3-year-old races, sometimes 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 races for one particular horse, because I want to differentiate their end result to how the race was run, not just going by the daily race inform footnote. I got to see it for myself. Yeah, you guys said Wolfendale. Yeah, she's someone good to listen to close the book on her thought. All right. Timothy says, I'll check it out to Darren. That's where I am. All right. Sean says he likes listening to Richard Migliori about jockey stuff, and Tom Amos who's good for trainers' perspective. That's a good point. Guys who became analysts. I like Jerry Bailey. I watched Jerry Bailey. He was on my favorite horse of all time, Cigar. Richard Migliori. I watched him race his whole career. I watched him. So, yeah, I'm interested in listening to him. Tom as a trainer, same thing. So if a real good trainer who I respect became an analyst, like a Bill Mott, like a Shug McGahee, like some of the guys on the West Coast now, Peter Miller or Phil D'Amato, yeah, I like listening to what they have to say, especially if they were going to be an analyst. All right. Oh, this is an interesting topic. So we're going to do potpourri now. Remember what I said about the Wilson shoot, guys, what to look for. Very important. You'll get scores. All right. I got to take some questions and answer them now. All right, hold on. So, Sarah, we talked about. Timothy says Naira has a lot of additional personnel now. Yes, they're trying to grow. I like Matt DeSantis. Matt DeSantis, who I've met, had conversations with, he handicaps. And he was once a YouTuber that got the big job at Naira. So he's a good resource. I don't know much about the other guy who just joined. His name escapes me. He's a young kid. So he's probably in his late 20s. I don't know too much about him, but they are building. The young lady who's with Matt on the Naira circuit, I'm trying to remember her name, Kylie Shapiro. She's pretty cool. She grew up, you could tell. She's not as in-depth as those others we spoke about, but I like to listen to what she has to say. I like her personality and all that. A lot more ladies are in the game now these days. All right, so let's go down the line here so I don't miss it, so I can catch up. So, Boy Plunger says, a Kappa has to bet his opinion no matter what he hears. It's good to mute the audio. Yeah. If you are still learning as a handicap, but you're confident in your skill set, absolutely. Always back your opinion first, but incorporate that. Like Mr. Sette, you don't have to listen to anybody. I am betting my findings. But do I listen? Maybe I missed something based on what someone else had to say, who I respect? Absolutely. So that's a good point. Timothy says, with the demise of Chicago racing, Indy is a player in the Midwest. Traveled there for the Derby week and enjoyed. Hey, Horseshoe Indianapolis, I played pick fives here. I love the announcer, the track announcer, Dooley. He's a Staten Islander. He's a New Yorker. And he's very passionate. You ever hear him call a race? But interestingly enough, the handicapper at Indianapolis, I forgot his name. I don't want to give out names. I don't agree with. And if Mr. Sette was in that booth, not Keeneland Dan. Keeneland Dan's a good guy. The other guy, not for me. If you're watching, I'm sorry, man. You do your thing. You got a good gig there, but it's just I don't connect with his material. All right. But Timothy, yes, there's good racing there, good turf racing. Not as classier the individuals, but there's a good jockey colony at Horseshoe in Indianapolis. I have no problem people betting Horseshoe Indianapolis. It's not like Parks or, Belterra when it was around, or Finger Lakes. If you're playing Finger Lakes full cards, you could do it for the recreational fun, but I wouldn't make it a habit playing Finger Lakes. Dean Ice says, Haskell Day was a chalk fest until the Haskell Stakes. Listen, I've seen you around. You're a good guy. I think you follow me on Twitter or on X. I never want to use the term chalk fest because you can have a day where you're handicapping, because I went over the first 5 races. First 5 races, Mr. Sette was all over. It wasn't chalks. They weren't $38 horses, but there's nothing wrong with a $75 exacta. There's nothing wrong with a $65 daily double. When you use the term chalk is 3 to 5, 6 to 5, even money, 2 to 5, short fields. $8 exacta, $12 double. That's more like with chalk. But when it came to the Haskell, if you joined late, even if you gave me your money, I wouldn't have played Baby Vino. And I don't need to go over it again. Just watch the beginning of the show, the pros and the cons. But the people that won with Baby Vino had nothing to do with the price. Because if I liked the horse, I would be able to substantiate my claim with a lot of pros and very little cons. It wouldn't be a guess or hope that four or the much more accomplished horses just decided not to show up on Haskell Day. Hot Rod says, well, I got some catching up to do. Sorry if I'm behind on the comments. Hot Rod says, when I watch a replay on a horse, I want to know, how does the horse do when he faced adversity? In my opinion, you can't teach heart. Hey, for you listeners, he's making a very good point. I want a horse that responds well to being eyeballed, who's messed up in the trenches, in between horses. I want a horse that responds well to jockey urging. I want a horse that welcomes a fight, not folds in deep stretch. Absolutely. Darren says Jackson Muniz. Yeah, so he's new in Naira. I don't know. I can't offer my opinion. He seems like he's got some racing knowledge, and he's probably a pretty good handicapper, but it's incomplete. I don't know much about him, and maybe he doesn't know enough about me. But I'll tell you one thing, he's a young dude, and I got 30 years on him. That we know for sure. You can't stop Father Time. But if he's got a gig with Naira, then he probably has a pretty good resume, and I wish him the very best. Seems like a good guy. Matt is legit, great personality. Which Matt? Matt Timmerman? Matt is a good horseman, a great race caller, and yeah, he's a good guy. If you ever listening to Matt Timmerman, listen to what he has to say about his way of handicapping. He's pretty good. He's really good. Oh, Matt Bernier. All right. Matt Bernier is a handicapper. You know, yeah, I have nothing negative to say about Matt. You know, I like the not David. Sorry, David. The guy that does shows on DRF, Mike Beer. I'm good with Mike Beer. The only thing I don't like what Mike Beer said, Mike, if you're watching, you don't have to say as often as you say it that a horse is too short of a price to you. Because if you know the horse is the most likely winner based on all the contributing factors, that's who you have to bet. You could structure your tickets leaning towards that, but don't take the 4 horse because he presents greater value, because the horse you feel is the most likely winner is too short of a price. I don't believe in it. If you land on a horse that's 15-1, that's who you land on. If you land on a horse that's 7-5, that's who you land on. My advice is never deviate from who you feel is the most likely winner. Okay? A couple years back, that Philly Quiet Side, I think I went public with that. Horse was 12 or 13-1. When I handicapped that race, I felt she should have been 3-1. She just happened to be on the board at 12-1. She ran everybody down in the field, and I cashed a big ticket day. But it doesn't always work out that way. But if Quiet Side was 9-5 that day, not 12-1, I'm still betting her the same way. I'm just making less money. Or if I'm so inclined, I can increase my wages to try to make more money or structure my tickets in a way to use my opinion to make more money. But everybody has their own style of wagering. Tell Andy Servant to take his golden rail and stick it. Hey, I think you guys know this, and I don't want to make this where I'm mentioning names or I'm saying the pros and cons. We started talking about the knowledgeable gals who I appreciate, but there's so many personalities in this business. Only you could make an informed decision as to who you want to listen to and respect and who you don't want to listen to or mute altogether. Excuse me. Timothy O'Hare, Keeneland Dan is legit. Listen, I like the guy. He's been around a long time. He makes sense. We're different in some ways, but I like him. Do you know the story about him? Maybe I shouldn't even give it all out. His brother is a very prominent guy in collegiate sports. I think he's the coach at UCLA or something like that. You could look it up. I don't want to give out false information, but he's a good horseman. He's a good horseman. I got to know him through Past the Wire with John, and it's not fair if I'm comparing myself to somebody else who's a public handicapper or prognosticator. You know what I'm saying? I just know who I don't listen to at all. All right. Hot Rod says people don't understand how to create value. It's a very good point. And they do what John says all the time not to do, fading a horse because of the odds when playing a daily double, pick three, or exacta. Yeah, you know what? Another thing to put into play here is wagering budget or how many races you're betting. There are some people who I know have a greater capacity to wager because, they have more capital. If you gave Mr. Sette a lot more capital than he has, that's what I love about days like Saturday. I had a great weekend. My Sunday following Haskell Saturday, that basically funded me for 3 or 4 months if I lost every bet. So, so it does matter. Ticket structure is important. Handicap and skill set's important. But if you're going to be a horse player, how much available capital to wager is also important. But it's a good point. I appreciate your comments. Darren says Jackson's a handicap and horse tourney guy. Yeah, you know what? One thing about the horse tourneys, and somebody, you see my name there. It's not me. You got to use your regular name. But I have somebody that wants to play, but he needs to be discreet because of his marital situation. So the horse tourney I'm familiar with, there's some things going in. I put his thing in and he sends me the money, if that makes sense. But and what I don't like about those horse tourney things, you can have a strong opinion. Your win is because they're like, if the pools, you got to be first or second. So there's no exactas, no triples, no superfectas, no daily doubles. It's just winning. But they're fun if you're in those, if that's the horse tourneys you're talking about. But I know about them, but I don't play them often. But I put stuff in for someone else So it appears that it's me, but it's not me because I'm actually populating it. So you see my name. Anyway, all right. Will Mr. Sette be assaulting Kentucky Downs coming? Yes, Kentucky Downs. I love the challenge of the meet. It's, you guys, if you don't know, now you're going to know. Kentucky Downs, you got rich purses. The meat, the whole meat is only like, I don't know, 10, 12, 13 days. It's a very quick meet, but I love the size of the fields. It's all turf racing. The big boys go there because the purses are big. And even though it's a very, the layout of the configuration of the track, it's very, you got to get used to it. You got to get lucky, but it's good horse race gambling at Kentucky Downs. I like the pools, and I will approach it. Yes. Since you brought that up. Jackson from Cali was in HHH podcast and is involved with a lot of the contest tournament. Oh, yeah, like I said, he seems to be a nice guy with some, racing, wagering knowledge. But I'm not going to get much from somebody like that because I'm doing this since the late 70s. Like I said, I pick and choose who I want to listen to and who I don't want to listen to at all, if that makes sense. But I like the guys from the DRF and some of the people you mentioned, and I like those women. Those women are really cool. I listen to them. Jeannie, Matt DeSant, yeah, good friend, nice guy, knowledgeable. He used to, before he was on NYRA, he used to do handicapping on YouTube. But I know the difference between someone who handicaps and someone who doesn't, and he handicaps. Good guy. All right. Same last name, Gio. UCLA. Yes, Timothy, that's a fact. It's his brother. All right. It's not how much you bet, it's your return. How much you clear. I'm glad you mentioned that. And for the people watching tomorrow or the people watching today, let me make a statement. We're all horse players. And we all win and we all lose. Some of us win a lot more often than others. But the one thing that matters most is your bottom line. Trust me when I say I did it. I didn't realize at one time when I was losing too much. Hold yourself accountable. Keep a book. How much have you deposited? And do it. I like breaking my months down. Because remember what I said to start the show. There's 12 months in a year. We all know that. How many months did you win? And how many months did you lose? But more importantly, if your two biggest winning months, if you lost 10 months and you won just 2 months, but those 2 months were so powerful, you're still ahead, then that's a beautiful thing. But when I say by holding yourself accountable, I don't like to use the term ROI per your win bet. Because it depends. Are you a pick 5 player? Are you a pick 4, daily double, pick 3? Are you a horizontal player or you're just a vertical player? I know people that don't make one vertical wager. It's win or going forward, double, pick 3, pick 4, pick 5, pick 6. And then I have people that relish, I'm one of them, in the superfecta triple exacta arena because I know the profit I get out of it. I bet win's a very important bet too. But when I said about holding yourself accountable is month over month or meet over meet. We got meets coming. You got Keeneland Fall coming up. Saratoga just started. You could have done it from day one. Either an Excel spreadsheet or notebook. Literally, the date, how much you wagered, how much you put into all the exotic wagering, and what was your end result. And then all those end results, what was your bottom line for the day or for the month? We know who we are, and we know if it's working for us. And look, there's going to be losing streaks. There's going to be bad beats. There's going to be days where if you have any hair left, you're pulling hair out of your head. It's frustrating. Bad beats, photo losses. I don't like fun. Guys, and I'm not saying this with conceit, most of my pick 5 losses are 4 out of 5. Very rare do I have an 0 for 5, pick 5, or 1 for 5. There are 3 out of 5s, but my 4 out of 5s, because they're so concentrated, many of my pick 5 losses are 4 out of 5s, but I got boatloads of them. Because if I hit every pick 5, I wouldn't be here in the modest Sette compound. I'd be in a palatial estate. But my pick 5s are pretty good. I don't roll donuts, but I get a lot of 4 out of 5s and 3 out of 5s. And almost always, the biggest tip I could give you is learn how to finance your extended horizontal wages by hitting and scoring with the same horses within the same sequence. That you have to do. It's a good practice to perfect. Because if you have your pick 5 tickets funded by winning daily doubles and pick 3s within the sequence, you'll see your bottom line will be a much better bottom line. I have one of my followers who remains nameless. He's been following me for a long time. Every time I do a written handicap or precise order, he gets it. Because you know what? Believe it or not, he's a board player. He plays my top choice, not on a win. It's very, very, very conservative. But he says, you know what? If he's good enough for you, it's good enough to hit the board. And he followed it for the longest time. And he just showed profit. And it was good enough for him. So that's a very conservative way to play. I like exotics. My strike rate is pretty high. Overall, races handicap. My expectations is always more confident, but if I handicap 10 races, I fully expect to have the winner 4 to 5 times. Am I going to have days on a 10-race spread where I only have 1 or 2 winners? Yeah. But I'm also going to have days where I have 6 or 7 winners. I'm talking in the grand scheme of things, 100 graded stakes races. If I complete my handicap, regardless of price, I'm expecting to have 45 or 50 winners out of the 100 actually win the race. Those are my expectations, my confident level for that. Anybody says they're going to win 60 or 70% of the time, it's just not. There's too many contributing factors that challenge you, that you have no control over. So Timothy went to UCLA. Let me catch up if there's any more I got to catch up with. Right at the wire, hey, my man. I got to get right out of the wire. A big shout out. He's here. He's got a great channel. He does these live shows. He talks a lot about handicapping and the pearls that you could get out of it. Strongly recommend his channel, especially if you're watching my channel, because we're sort of from the same mold in a lot of ways. Our philosophy, our racing knowledge. And maybe you're part of it. So thanks for chiming in. I was happy I saw it. I don't know if the grid here shows the time, but I think maybe you chimed in rather recently, right? Carson Young says, I own a very dangerous colt running in a high-profile turf race at Kentucky Downs. Looking forward to it. Hey, that's good to know. Let me know who you're a part of. I'd like to follow the horse as well. Yeah, and Sean, I should have said Alex. It's Alex. I said right at the wire when I saw the name, but it's Alex, of course. And Alex and I met, I believe it was Haskell Day a few years ago. And I like his channel. I actually could learn from Alex because Alex on his channel, he's got these cool graphics now. He's got video on there. And Alex, if you still were here, I may give you a call because I got my channel going, the Focus and Finish channel. I got a lot of subscribers growing, but I'm not there yet with the graphics and the screen switching and all that. I got to do that. I'm too much in the raw, But yeah, we're two guys that are cut from the same mold. He's passionate. He's knowledgeable. I'm probably a little older than him, but we're in the same generation. He goes back a long way, understands pedigree. Now, by the way, Alex, I know for a fact, he's not a biased guy. I believe he uses Brisnet. I'm not a Brisnet guy. But Alex, chime in if you do your handicapping through Brisnet. Folks, if you're a handicapper, find your comfort zone. Everybody knows I'm mostly buyers. It's not just by looking at the high buyer number. It's how you interpret it, how you dissect it from class levels and distances and surfaces, connections. That's how I use buyers. But I also respect and value the Thorograph as a good tool. But I'm not a Brisnet guy. Formulate is good. Formulate is good with DRF as a tool, but I'm old school. I like to print out my DRFs and work with hard copy paper. And then I use my vehicles to view races and workouts. But a lot of people like to have that at their fingertips. But when I use DRF, I purchase my plan for classic PPs and I print them. Here in my office, I got several printers. But really, Alex, I'm very delighted that you joined. I gave out a horse that's running Thursday. You may want to listen to everything I said in the beginning of the show. We covered a lot of things tonight, sort of impromptu. We talked about some of the personalities. I recapped my Haskell handicap, the full card, and my thoughts on the results of the Haskell. I talked about Saratoga and how the Wilson chute, that mile configuration on the dirt, how I have used that to my advantage. And literally this weekend, I had a big score. But I'm happy you're here. And I've seen some of your shows, your live shows too. But I watched from my living room on the big screen. That's why I never commented in. So I'm really delighted that you're here, Alex. And please, folks, if you hear it, focus to the finish, go ahead and follow and subscribe to Right at the Wire. Good guy, knowledgeable guy, good horseman, good handicapper. Likes a good cigar too, but Mr. Sette, no smoker, no smoking. I do my cooking in the kitchen. So if you want my recipe for shrimp oreganata or the best scampi or anything with your Sunday sauce, Montagort, stuffed shells, meatballs, lasagna, I'm your man for that. All right, who else? Let's see. So Timothy says Nashville, Derby, Carson. No, Jenny's saying, hi, Alex. I guess you're familiar with Alex then. Mystery handicapper breaks down a race well. I don't know what mystery handicapper is. So, you got a name or you're talking about YouTube shows? Remember, I'm a busy guy. Very few YouTube shows. Of course, I spent 8 years at Past the Wire. John's a friend of mine. I still watch Past the Wire. I like DRF, but not everybody at I like Mike Beer. Who else? Of course, Alex at Right at the Wire. There's one other guy on YouTube, if I could give a reference. Of course, I like Matt DeSantis at Naira and Kaylee Shapiro. I spoke about them. But yeah, I don't really venture. I know there's a lot going on YouTube. I do my thing. Maybe some of them watch my show. But yeah, mystery, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you know who I don't watch? Hey, look, if you're fans of it, go ahead. I watched once and I can't. I don't do any derbyologists. That's not my kind of handicapper. No. That's not for me. And I would gather that Alex wouldn't be into somebody like, and he's got like 14,000 subscribers. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't want to mention names, but that's a show I saw once to check out. Not for me. So best of luck, Carson. I see there. Boy Plunger, Gio, if you ever need anything down in Vegas, I'm your guy. Really? You know, my brother Mario lives in Vegas. He's a big poker player. I can never live in Vegas, but he moved there. He got married. He's divorced, but he stayed in Vegas. Let me see. So Carson says, yeah, he won the Dade Park Dash on his Terp debut. Okay. You know, Alex, if you're still with us, if you check out that horse, I'd like your opinion on that horse on Thursday. I'm betting him regardless. It's going to get a C note or more single in my pick 5 on Thursday. And I know Irad's in a race, and I know there are unbeaten horses in a race, and I know Pratt's in a race, but I'm with Tyler on my horse that race for all the reasons I mentioned. And watch the replay of those 2 races I talked about. Yeah, Alex. So you got it, man. By the way, I really elaborated about Thursday's Susie O'Kane stake, the state-bred filly race. And I really, really like Consider It City. I don't want to go over the same thing again. Go ahead and watch that filly's last race on June 28th at Aqueduct. And you tell me if that horse is in prime for a big effort, who should have won the last race. But check out early in the show. I don't want to go over everything I went over. I went over my specific findings, why I feel, you'll see. Just watch the race over and follow that horse around the track. And, Dylan got out of the jam, but but that horse deserved a better outcome on the 28th, and this is her first race back, and they put her in this state bred stake race, and I know who they're going to bet in that race, and I know who I'm going to bet. You got it, Alex, man. You deserve to mention here because I appreciate you as a friend, and I like your channel. I really do. And we weren't even talking about them. I just saw you popped in here, and I was happy. And your channel, like I said, I got to get those graphics down, the videos, and the start. I'm like just me here in my Sette compound office. But a lot of people like it. Timothy says, we'll be watching. Alex said, talk anytime. Yeah, I'm going to give you a call. I just been so busy with so much. But Alex, Haskell Day, I think you went to the Haskell Day, even though I've gone 10 consecutive years, literally with Past the Wire, I was in the Sky Tower, in the press room the last 7 years, in the past. But I didn't make it down this year because my son was staying with me and he hurt his knee, and I'm family first. And I stayed home and we did sports card stuff, and I bet the card from this office here. But I had a great day. Not a good Haskell, but I had a great day. I basically crushed the first 5 races on the card. But if you went there, I hope it was a great day. I know it was a downer with the weather delays and, the final 4 or 5 races was sort of tainted. I still hit the last triple of the race. My top 3 made the triple, but they took 1 race off the turf. I kind of had a strong opinion there, but I didn't play it when they took it off the turf because it changed my handicap. And, the turf was really soft and yielding, and the track was beyond sloppy. It was shifty, I call it. Oh, really? Okay. You say, Herbie, yeah, I'm 63, man, and, we are who we are. We can't stop Father Time, but we still keep our heart, and we still keep our head in the game. And a lot of people who take part in our channels, there's a lot to absorb. They could get a lot of pearls from guys like us, just from our experience. It's really important stuff, And during, I'm on since 9 o'clock, so it's 12, so 3 hours in. So I guess I'm going to have to say goodnight. Mother Nature's calling. I got to use the bathroom. Remember, I drank a full pint of water. I didn't go to the bathroom. So I really appreciate. I'm sorry if we went 3 hours. We had a lot of fun conversation. We talked about some important stuff. And there's a lot more coming. So with that, I'll say goodnight. Stay focused. Focus to the finish. Leave no stone unturned in terms of your handicapping. I wish you the best of luck. If you ever have a strong opinion, always stick with it. Tim, yeah, I'll be at Monmouth. Even though I'm a little disappointed in their cards at Monmouth, I'll be back there this summer. And if you're smashing a like, I appreciate it. Share my channel out. I need some more subscribers. Maybe I'll get my subscribers up to where Alex is, and he'll keep growing. And I still endorse Past the Wire. They have a lot of changes going on now. They're filtering professional sports and added graphics there. So still stay loyal to Past the Wire as well, okay? I talk to John all the time about that. And who knows? Maybe you'll see me on there as well. And you're right, the cards have been horrible, and I can't stomach those 5-horse field where Paco Lopez is 3-5. I can't do it. All right, guys. I love each and every one of you. Thanks for joining me. Stay well. Most important, take care of yourself and enjoy the sport we love. And I'll see you real soon, okay? God bless you. God bless your families. I got to go. End stream.